Okay. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And this time, we're going to start with Debbie calling the roll.
Kurt?
Here.
Nancy?
Yes.
Bob?
Here.
Cindy?
Here.
Jay?
Excused.
Mark?
Excused.
And Eric?
And Eric is excused.
Thank you.
All right. The purpose of our meeting here today is the Assembly, acting as the Board of Equalization, will consider appeals to the 2015 property assessments that have not been administratively resolved by the Borough Assessor. Documents for the appeals will be presented by the Finance Department staff at this meeting. And I want to remind anyone who sits up front to please speak into the mics because the proceeds are being recorded. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jody and to Arnie.
The first appeal before you all, I'm Arnie Erickson, representing the Contract Assessor's Office. The first two appeals, and the first appeal is by Randall Henderson, and he has two pieces of property that front on North Nordic Avenue. Between November and late or mid-January this year, and I think that you've all received this information before, we were asked to review the land valuations for equity. And in doing that, we found that there was some very large inequities in the way people were being valued with their land. You would find side-by-side parcels, very big differences in square footage, but the values may be the same. Or the unit value used, as an example, one piece of property, 5,000 square feet, was being calculated at $3.50 a square foot, others at $7, $8, or $9. So over a 2-month period of time, we tried to bring equity into each of these areas and value everybody based on the same criteria. This was true of North Nordic.
Yes, hello, it's Randy Henderson here.
Okay, Randy. The assessor is describing your appeal.
Okay, your volume isn't too loud for me here, but thanks for that. And which parcel are we looking at first?
We are looking at lot 19.
Okay, good. And
So anyway, Mr. Henderson, before you go any further, let me just give some quick background here, and then the chair lady will recognize you if that's okay.
okay, great. Yeah, that's fine. I think I got a good connection here. So good.
Okay. So Mr. Henderson did not concur with the valuation of his assessed value being $185,000. He thought it should be $140,000. I proposed to him, after looking back, and he brought it to my attention, that the square footage was incorrect, and so I proposed that the value be lowered from 185 to 130, which would be then commensurate or equitable with the way other lots of the same size would have been valued. He, and you all have copies of this in your packet, presented a formula in the course of a letter, and I don't, yes, it's in here, where he proposed a different methodology for valuing his property, as the property fronted on two different valuation zones, the North Nordic on one side and Wrangell Avenue on the other. And I said, although it was a good analysis, I could not consider it, because then he would be considered differently than everyone else. He would not be valued at the same criteria. And he disagreed, and that's why we're here today. And with that, I would say we've valued the property equitably with those properties in that immediate area, and that's my recommendation, that we value that piece of property at $130,000 for the land. The building is not contested.
So the total would be $262,600?
Yes. And I did not fill that in on the back of the write-up because there it says adjusted value, and we haven't gotten to that point yet.
All right.
Can we start asking questions?
Pardon?
Can we start asking questions?
We're going to give Mr. Henderson a chance to speak to his petition. Are you on the line?
Mr. Henderson?
Oop, did we lose him?
Shoot.
Mr. Henderson?
You may not answer to anything but Randy.
Hello, Randy. Are you still on there?
Uh-oh.
Hello, Randy. Are you there now? Okay, cool. We lost you for a second there, so I believe you're up.
Okay, I missed the recap or whatever for my part. So, what do you want now?
So just to fill you in, the assessor was describing the back and forth between you and he, and that his new proposed value just for the land is $130,000, that the building value is still at $132,600 and is not being contested, for a total of valuation of $262,600. And I asked if you wanted to speak to your petition for an adjustment. And you're going to need to put your phone pretty close to your face. Seems to be part of our issue in hearing you.
Cutting out just a little bit. Try again, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I'm not hearing the,
Sorry, Randy. It's cutting out very badly, and we're not even getting a full word. Randy, are you by chance inside a house? Would it be better service if you were outside?
Where is he? Mexico. Oh, that explains it.
The only other thing I could think of is if we did some kind of a Skype connection and stuck a computer there.
So, Randy? So I'm on the record.
Yeah,
Can I
go
speak
ahead.
now? Okay, so I'm on the record, I guess. So, so Randy valued this property at 140, and Arnie, you valued it at 130. So there's a contest, or he wants to just agree with this assessment at 130. Is that was that what your intentions were, Randy? If you can hear me, was just to agree with the new 130 assessment, or do you want us to go to 140?
If you will look at his included letter here, he proposed with the formula that I referenced that he thought the total assessed should be 94.4.
Oh, okay.
And as I said to him in return email, good analysis, but if I were to choose that or the argument of, and he also raised the argument, well, I have less front footage. It was valued solely on size and everybody the same way. It was valued as a Nordic lot facing the Narrows, not as an upper lot facing on Wrangell. There's a difference. And so, yes, I suggested the 130. The square footage was wrong, and he was valued at 185. He should have been valued at 130. We discovered that, thankfully, and so 130 is the recommendation. He thinks under his formula it should be 94.4.
And if I'm reading his letter correctly, he's proposing to look at it from the other. I'm not sure I understand yet, Arnie. I'm trying to understand his proposal there. He thinks it should be viewed from Wrangell Avenue rather than North Nordic.
He thinks it should be considered with both frontages, a portion of it fronting on Nordic.
Oh, I see.
And so this percentage should be valued this way, this should be valued this way.
I see your point. I see.
Like other front-facing Nordic lots, or lots that went all the way through,
Right.
we valued them facing the narrow.
Narrows.
It was just brought to my attention that I'm in the process of drawing up some new house plans, and my wife told me that if I had the door facing Dolphin Street, our address would change versus facing Second Street. So, which way does his front door face? Nordic?
Baltic.
What's
it's on the
Baltic?
side street.
It's on the side street, okay. I don't know if that was even a consideration, but it was just something I never realized.
I went over there to talk to him, I talked to the house sitters, I heard from the Baltic side, so that's all I knew.
That's the back door.
Okay.
Everything goes in the back door.
I hear. But it doesn't,
What's the address?
you know, it kind of, where Dolphin is and everything, we based that solely on a square foot cost where is, not which way it pays.
No, she was just telling me that if we had the door facing Dolphin, then my address would change to Dolphin Street instead of Second
Yeah,
and Dolphin. It
and,
would be, I don't know. I'm just going by what you told me.
I didn't,
But what's his
I don't
address?
create the addresses.
Yeah, no, but what's his address? Is it North Nordic, or is it Baltic, or is it Wrangell Avenue designation?
The address is Nordic. On his forms and everything, he writes 910 Nordic.
Okay, so it's on Nordic then.
Yeah, well, looking at it from the criteria which we have to judge is from, I don't see it as what you're proposing as excessive, in line with all the other properties there. If you look at it also from another criteria we have is unequal, I don't see he makes the case for it being unequal in any way that I can see. He does propose a different method, as you said. The question is whether or not that method would change a lot of other has a potential of changing others, but or else make, as you say, his an individual case. I don't see. Go ahead.
I may interject this quickly. There's 48 parcels in what I would call this subject area. And we had 4 appeals.
Okay.
So 4 appealed, 44 did not. And if we used the same criteria for all of them.
Well, and to be clear, 2 of the appeals are the same homeowner, are they not?
Excuse me?
2 of the appeals are the same property owner.
Yes. Yeah, they're side-by-side lots, 18 and 19.
And they go from Nordic to Wrangell Avenue, which is supposed to enhance the value, right?
Will now be placed into conference.
Trying one more time, see if Randy can call in. Said he couldn't get back on.
So is he on the line, or are we waiting for him to call?
I'm hoping he's going to try to call back in. I told her to tell him to give me a minute to re-sign on, and then he'll call. So we'll
Okay.
hear it blip when he's there.
Looking at it's to me, he doesn't meet the criteria of being an improper evaluation either, unless there's something I'm missing.
And I guess I would have to agree. You recognized where the square footage error was and accounted for that, and it sounds like that has already been addressed, so.
That's the way I see it.
in terms of the three criteria that we're using to evaluate the assessment, I also don't see that it's excessive, unequal, or improper.
I would like to hear, and maybe what we could do is a suggestion is we table this one and move to a couple of the others.
My only concern is if he calls back.
That's why I was going to say coming back, but in the meantime,
I hate to
I would like to hear what Mr. Henderson has to say before I, make a motion to what we ought to do.
We can't change the valuation or the method of valuation unless we change all of them, right?
That's correct.
If we want to be equitable, then yes, we would
Yes.
have to change them all. Because we then would be developing a different criteria.
It's a question of method, not value for us.
Right. But I would still like to hear what Mr. Henderson has to say, if we could get him. If not, as a suggestion, could we move to another one and come back if we get him back on the phone to?
I hated to do that because he keeps dropping and not dropping, so I didn't want to I wanted to use him while we had him.
He'll come back on. Or maybe he's in agreement now. He's even trying to call back.
And okay. The other thing I wanted to know too is the property is insured for 265.3. Your new proposed valuation is 262.6, which is within $700. Well, but 17, yeah, a few thousand. All right. For lack of a better option, let's move on to the Appeal C, and we'll defer this one until we get Randy on the line. If not, we'll consider that as the last property that we'll evaluate.
This appeal is administered by the Currys.
Excuse me, respectfully, could we just take my mother's first, which is F and G, since we're all here? Would that be all right?
So 01.002 or dash 164.
Yes. And 01002-170.
Okay.
I get the right ones here.
Here.
Round. Okay.
Is there a site map for these pieces of property?
I don't see one.
I don't have Betty's.
Where's this property at, Gene?
You don't have?
I'm gonna have this, but I mean, I don't have a site plan on where it's actually.
It's right behind Ray Olson's.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's up in there. Okay, I know the area then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have my information, my appeal?
Yours is here.
Okay.
170 on.
Right behind Ray Olson's with no access.
Yeah, behind
Yeah,
Log
just
Cabin.
wait. Yeah, he's just trying to find which one it is.
That's what I wanted to hear about, okay.
You got it now, Nancy?
That's near the Swanson properties.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
We all have it in hand. We'll let
Go
Arnie
ahead.
do his presentation.
Beginning with, well, we could take both of them together since they were filed on a single appeal form. The two lots, one is 5,456 feet, and the other at 17,152. At the time of valuation, they were mistakenly valued as if they had physical access and that they had suitable soils. In other words, they did not face a deficiency to development that others with like property in that immediate location would enjoy. In other words, let's say one lot was filled and theirs wasn't. The value should be different under the criteria. And so the one lot, the 5,400 square foot lot was valued as if it were if it fronted on Wrangell Avenue, and it was valued at $60,000. Discussing with the Currys and looking at all the deficiencies, lack of physical address or access, even though it does have platted access to it, I suggested that the value be reduced to $8,800. And this was in keeping with an area that we had put at $450 a foot, plus taking into consideration the sales of 3 lots by the borough to a local resident. And actually, in speaking to that, those lots that sold, that individual sold at higher than what I'm suggesting for this one, but I understand there were extenuating circumstances that created that. So anyway, I think in all fairness, $8,800 is much more fair than $60,000 on the one lot. On the other lot, the value was at $92,500. I think taking all the same considerations, it's much more appropriate that it be valued at $30,900. And the Currys listened patiently and said, we must disagree. And so here they are.
Ari, before we move on, what's the square footage on that second lot?
17,152.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion for Arnie? So the parcel does not have water and sewer?
No, it does not.
And when you say adverse environmental features, you're only referring to the fill, or are there other aspects there?
It would require extensive fill. It's very boggy up in that area. And we certainly recognize that when you're all familiar with the area of Lake Street, Valkyrie, in that area, there's some homes built. And then if you get off, but it's in the same platted subdivision, you find that very boggy, a lot of standing water, and when we were doing that area, we tried to recognize that with big deductions for what I considered adverse environmental or constraints to the development. They have value, but not nearly what other more developed lots, say with fill and that type of thing, have.
You have any more?
No, not of Arnie.
Then,
Okay.
I will let the Currys
My name
speak.
is Jean Curry. I'm representing my mother, Betty Peterson. And you can see why we were understandably upset when the value went up 508% on these 2 lots. So that is why we contested it in the first place. The properties have no access. They do not have a view. We have offered them for sale a couple of times to no avail. There is no interest in this property. Should the road ever go through, there will possibly be interest, but I've been told that road will never go through. I don't know if that's true or not, by a former city planner. And the property that sold to John Swanson, I think there were extenuating circumstances there, so the value went up. The road does not come close to my mother's property, and it's landlocked. There's no access to it whatsoever. And so we're requesting that it should be valued lower. And actually, I did some research, although I couldn't pull up the 2017 assessments, but the 2016, along Wrangell Avenue, there's one gentleman that has his house on two different lots. One lot is valued at $75, the other is at $0. Another one along Wrangell Avenue, and these lots are quite a bit bigger than this one, is valued at $40,000. Road access, sewer, water, view. And then the other one on the Middleton Street and Valkyrie, is it? Yeah. It's valued at $86,900, corner lot. So it just seemed really unfair. And the person that is looking to buy the Ray Olson's property, which is 4 lots, their plan is to, the realtor's plan is to make it 4 individual single-family lots. Right now, 2 of them are open space. So there will be no view. No view, nothing.
Do you have a question?
I was just going to say, what would you think would be a fair value that you were talking with Arnie about?
Well, I'm not really sure what to ask for, to tell you the truth. You know, I see one person here that's just not that far away, just 1 lot between, and his is 0. And the one in front that he has his house on both lots. That one is with his house. It is at 75, I think. But I don't know. I thought the with no view, no access, probably won't be access, that the $450 a square foot was just not fair. We can't sell it. We've tried to sell it previously. We've tried to sell it. She's tried to give it away. So I would hope it would be a lot less than the $30,900 and the $8,800.
Did you have a comment, Arnie?
The only comment I would have is, how do we quantify view? What percentage plus or minus do we give to view? Mr. Henderson also brought that up. Well, now that there's a B&B in front of me, he didn't say B&B, but because a building was built in front of him, he had lost some of his view, and that should be taken into consideration. I'm not talented enough to know.
And I guess the question that I would ask you is, if it's not an easily developable lot, what is the value of view?
That's what I'm asking. What is, I think that we've recognized that it's got a lot of constraints to development. Mm-hmm. And among them, it doesn't have sewer and water to them. They don't have physical road access. It's boggy. Yes, we're recognizing those. But those are much easier than to say, what percentage do I attach to view?
And I guess my question is, does view get the same consideration as all the other considerations? If the lot is essentially a lot that you can't use for most purposes, should view be considered at the equal level with, is the lot developable? Does it have water and sewer?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I can't answer that question, but because I don't know what value or what percentage of a total value you would lend to. For example, normally we take 15% off for lack of physical access. But how do I come up with a percentage? I talked to Public Works about sewer and water. They said roughly it came out at about 20% is what they were figuring for lack of utilities. As far as, say, boggy, it's a value judgment saying, is 50% of the water boggy, standing water? Let's take 50% off to recognize that, because that's a definite constraint to development. But view, I don't know how to put a value on view.
So you don't increase the value of a property that has a wonderful, expansive panoramic view?
No. For example, the lots on Nordic We did not take those 48 lots and say, okay, they've got a better view, therefore we're going to factor that into it. I'm not saying it's not a valid concern, and considering the land value when you're looking to buy something, certainly is a consideration, but how do you quantify it is the question.
So what is the square foot value on North Nordic Drive?
North Nordic is done by a square footage basis based on the overall size. It's graduated up. For example,
I guess my question is then, what is the difference between, if you're talking view, the North Nordic and, say, Lake Street, which is back with no view? That's the difference.
Could I say something here?
Certainly.
It seems to me, if you're not going to build a house there because you can't, because there's no sewer, water, or access, then the view is totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It has no value because you're not going to build a house there.
Right. That's what he's saying, that the view doesn't
That's
count
not
for
what he was
anything.
saying.
No, that,
Wasn't what I heard him say.
I didn't hear, I heard it just the opposite.
I heard him say he couldn't figure out what to value the view at. Well, I can. If you're not going to put a house there, the view is irrelevant.
Well, and when I asked him how much the view is worth when you have a spectacular panoramic view, he says it doesn't figure in the consideration.
Well, there's something going, because when Canary was here, and you remember that, not very many years ago, he valued all those views at $145,000 out that street.
Right,
the
he
view.
valued my view too, and I only have a water view twice a day,
I understand the problem, Nancy.
so.
He did, it was 165,
150.
yes.
So without a proposed assessed value from you, we're kind of at a stalemate. We don't know where to go at this point.
So give him a number.
I want to just make sure I have all the information here straight. Lot 1 was 5,400 square feet. It was originally valued at 60,000.
right,
Okay, and your proposal was reduced to 88.
8,800, yes.
Okay, Lot 2, 17,152, and it was valued, Arnie, at 92,500, and you took it down to 30,009 based
Right.
on the criteria of
Right.
those two.
Right.
Okay, and neither of them have sewer water to the lot.
No,
Okay, and that was taken into consideration. And
Excuse me, and the $4.50 a square foot, wasn't that the going rate for that area? So the discounts are not taken into consideration?
okay, I have those questions. Let me,
these two blue lots,
you want to tape it up there?
we're talking about these two lots
Okay.
here. This is Lake Street, this is Valkyrie. Bengal. Here's the lot. The road ends here. Nothing beyond that. Yeah, you would have to,
So
road would have to be built all the way to here.
there is no other right-of-way that coming from Nordic there, that you're,
The only other one is down towards the, a platted right-of-way on the old town site, roughly by Swanson. You come up the hill, and then you come this way. But right now, that road, and I'm not totally sure exactly, it comes up here, and stops pretty much right behind Swanson's house. So, yeah, there's platted access to the lot in 3 directions, but it's quite a ways off.
And the lot coming from North Nordic, that's the pump station, right? So
Right.
that won't be a
Right, so
road.
that's never going to happen.
That won't happen because the pump station is there.
Right now, there are electrical utility poles coming up a bit of this. Well, actually, I think they go along, but anyway, that's an access I understand to kind of access some of the utilities there. But, yeah, there's no doubt that the lots are compromised, but they're not valueless.
It's point of view.
No?
Okay, so I would like to request that your evaluation on the one is 30,900 and the other one is 8,800. I would like to suggest that you do an evaluation of half. Hate to have her be paying property tax on something that's worthless.
So your suggestion is 4,400 for the one lot and 15,000 for the other?
Sure. And the fellow that's buying Railson's property has the option to buy it. It's for sale, but he has first option to buy it. But I know he's putting a lot of money into the 4 lots that he's buying along North Nordic, so. And he'll be building a house, so I'm not sure if that would even be something he could consider. That would be the only way there would be some value to that property.
You contest these valuations last year?
We were gone, we missed the deadline.
So,
At point, you don't give very much notice on this. We were doing medical in Seattle, and we had 3 days when we finally got our mail to get this thing mailed back. So, not much of an opportunity here.
But we did it. I mean,
Yeah, here we are.
here we are.
I might point out also that Betty's 97, and so pretty quick, the estate's going to be dealing with this year after, year after, whatever, anyway, so. Same people.
So the property's values have probably gone up, over the years since she bought it.
She was gifted that by her mother, the biggest one. She bought the little one from Oscar Sandvik's estate.
And did she ever contest any of the property values along the way?
She did not. She would not. No. It wasn't something that she would be comfortable with.
I know we all hate to pay more in property tax.
Yeah.
We all hate to pay more in taxes, period.
And I think at one point she thought there would be access to that property, but then they put the pump station there, and no, there isn't access to it.
When did the pump station go in? Does anyone know?
Before John
Long
bought this
time ago,
house.
yeah.
Quite a while, wasn't it when the highway was built? When the road was,
Not sure.
I don't.
I think it was, yeah,
remember.
because that's when the sewer went in there. Sewer's under the road.
If I'm looking at this incorrectly, the values went from 152.5 to 39.7 for the 2 lots.
Last year they were assessed at 25,000 and 5,000. I don't see how they can increase.
well, I don't think they should probably increase either, but you're asking for a further decrease.
Why not?
Worth a try, I guess.
They're worthless.
Maybe John, are they right next to John's lot? That's too bad, maybe he'd buy them.
No, I think he bought enough. That was the impression I got.
Arnie, you said it was one of those, there's 2 blue, well, there's a bunch of blue lots there, but is it the first blue lot towards
Yeah,
the
the
Swanson's
first one.
house?
Yeah.
Just the first blue,
First 2 on that.
so there's 2 lots there. There's that one,
Yeah.
and then there's one in the middle.
That's the 2 of them talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going back to the criteria which we have to follow, again, I don't see where we've made it, where Arnie has done it excessively or out of proportion to everybody else. So I can't go along with that criteria.
But they have access. The other people have access, they have sewer, water, utilities.
All the other lots on the blue, every lot.
And to be fair, I think the other lots also have fill, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I'm giving these two lots the same consideration as I'm giving all these lots that are similarly impacted. You know, if you drive up Valkyrie or Lake and you get off the beaten path, you can see that those lots are very substandard. And we took that into consideration when we valued those lots. And tried to use the same criteria in looking at this and its constraints. And that's what I came up with. Now, if there's an error that says I give more weight to something and, you know.
So, Arnie, when you're saying you're evaluating it with similar lots, can you point to the area that you're considering similar?
What I'm trying to say is I am establishing, for these lots, we said we took away lack of utilities, lack of access, boggy ground and everything, and came up with a percentage. We valued them as if they were a lot down here, but then took it away and reduced a lot off the top of my head. I would say from like $27,500 down to $9,000. And so I tried to look at this in the same light. It's not quite the same, but it faces the same constraints of development. So why not use the same criteria? Maybe the unit value is different, but the criteria for then reducing it is the same. Whether it's $550 a square foot, $450 a square foot.
So the light blue is up in the muskeg? The light blue parcels?
These light blue parcels, we've all valued those at $450. The purpose of this, if I can call it an exercise, was that we had all these different inequitable values applied. You would like, and up in the area we're talking about now, you could have a 10,000 square foot lot that was valued at $40,000. The lot next door, same size, $45,000. Skipping down here into the area up here, we could find values, same lots, same size, variances from $350 a foot, $7, $8, or $9. So what we tried to do was take common areas and say everything in this area, when we look at the way they've been valued, should be at that number. For this area, it was $450. These colors kind of denote $1 per square foot or some kind of, the scheme that we use specifically for a specific area. The lots along Sandy Beach on the water are valued differently than the pink lots on the upper side.
Why is that, Arnie? If the view doesn't matter?
Pay more for one on the beach.
We inherited it. We inherited it.
Did you have a comment?
And I don't want to make anybody along Sandy Beach on the beach unhappy by saying the values are way too high, because then they'll all be saying, as one property owner said a couple of years ago, you cost me a sale because you cut my valuation of my property.
Well, if I may.
Yes.
If you do.
Arnie, am I correct in saying, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. Am I correct in saying that you valued, let's say, the light blue at $450 a square foot? Then the individual characteristics of the lot then either subtract from that, meaning no sanitation, no utilities, takes off a percentage. No road access, takes off another percentage. Muskeg takes off some more. And when you're done, you're left with a valuation on that particular lot. And if for the Assembly's purposes, or the Board of Equalization's purposes, that the key issue is he being unfair? If it is, meaning if on this particular situation, is he valuing those lots differently than he's valuing any of the others?
And I'm trying to get at what he's including in that square footage calculation. If you're considering the properties along Wrangell and then deducting, or if you're considering it as the same you evaluate Muskeg property and then talking about access and not, no water and sewer. Because what you're describing to me is a Muskeg parcel.
What I'm saying, the criteria was, if this parcel right here, in an area that we value at $4.50 a foot.
But that area has property on it. It has buildings on it.
Well, this doesn't actually, this is Buckhead. But I'm saying if we have an area in a different, like, if a lot on Sandy Beach, for example, was assessed at $165,000, and for some reason it lacked sewer and water, access, and everything, I would apply the same deduction and percentage to that lot as I would one here. So if this lot were valued at $50,000 and I said it was 65% compromised, I would take, the value would be 35% of that 50,000. If this lot was the same as far as the characteristics, even though it's a different area, I would use the exact same criteria of minus 65% to value that lot. So their area or site location does not matter.
But it does. If you have beach access versus road access, that does give you a different value. So to me, that would be a flaw in the logic. I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with you that you would start at the same place and then deduct the same things. I think the value of those parcels would be fundamentally different.
Why?
Because one is got beach access and definitely has a view, where something up on top of that hill would not.
I thought we didn't give valuation to view.
No, he didn't say that. He didn't know what to value it.
Let me take Cindy's. We started with those lots over there, Arnie, and we have them all in the blue. They were all at the same square footage rate, and then we began reducing from that. And going back to what Cindy was talking about, the logic of leaving those lots on that end is part of the blue parcels versus part of those. I think that was what was running through my mind. What was the logic of leaving them there versus, starting with this point? That was my question. Is that where you where you were
Yes, that
at?
was where I was going.
Maybe I didn't understand the question.
So I think what you're saying your methodology is every parcel in this area starts with the same base rate. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah.
There's
The same value per square foot?
Each of these areas does not have the same unit value. If you were to divide the square footage of a lot in North Nordic by the schedule, it would vary drastically from a lot up on, say, Lake or Valkyrie.
But what I'm trying to get at is, does it start from a base rate and you add or subtract, or are the areas have different?
In this area here, it seemed that the most common value per square foot was $4.50. So that was our base value. But what I tried to say with areas, no matter what the base rate or if you had two lots and but they were in different locations, each lacked physical access. I would take 15% off of this one. I would take 15% off of the other, because I can't treat one's physical access different than the other.
Okay.
And if I give 20% for lack of public utilities to this lot, and the other lot does not have those, I have to apply that same 20%, or it's not equitable. They may have different base values, but the percentage of deduction should be the same.
How many of those blue lots are privately owned? You know, that blue
This
area?
great big area,
Yeah,
very few of them.
yeah, so most of it's owned by us.
The only development up in here is I can't remember the side street here, These are the only ones that are developed. As a point of reference, I think this is a communications building here.
Yeah, and the next street up is Betty. I happen to know that one. Towards,
This one?
yes, that one's Betty. Get
But
that one
it's not
plowed in
there.
there. Well, but it's platted for Betty. That I know.
The answer to your question is the Petersburg Borough owns all of them.
Okay.
I think when the pump station went in, that really did limit this access more.
Guess I'm hung up.
I'm still stuck on the
Yeah.
base, the unit rate.
Well, I get it. Because the rest of it's all subjective, like if you got water, sewer, electrical, and a road access to it, that's going to add value to a property. That is, say, $4.50 a square foot.
I
versus it go
understand
the other
that.
way.
I'm trying to see what those parcels, what they were considered to be similar to, whether they were considered to be similar to the borough-owned Muskeg, or whether they were considered to be similar to the developed properties
That's-
along that street, and I'm not getting that answer.
Yeah, and that's the same question I have on you. Why, see if we're in the same, why this doesn't show as a, I call this gray, but I see it's a light blue. Why is it, because this is dark blue, and this is light blue, why should this not start at a point of being a light blue? I think that's the hang up I'm having also. Because of it's the same type of a
And you say, I guess I would accept that as a mistake on our part. It was put in an area that we looked at as being on a Nordic, not a Nordic, but a Wrangell property rather than property more inward or inland. It should have been, as you see it, the gray area. They should have been, and that's what I tried to reflect by reducing the value.
Okay.
Saying, okay, we aired, those two lots should have never been considered as in with the Wrangell properties. They should have been more considered in with this, in the bog, and that, and in producing a far greater value. I'm saying that's what I tried to reflect.
Okay, and so then you started with your base value the same as what you're calling the light blue here.
Right. It should have been valued at $4.50 a foot rather than $5.50 a foot, I believe. Let me look.
I think
Well,
it's
you
included
see
up
that
there.
initially they were for whatever reason, and it was a mistake, and I've already apologized for that, they were valued on a site, mistakenly on a site value, and I think that tied into what those lots that face North Nordic or on or North Nordic, and it shouldn't have been there. It should have been at a much lesser per square foot value.
Okay.
And so
No.
that's what I tried to do as a matter of correction, say, okay, it should have been valued this way, and then let's take all the deductions
Okay.
to
Now,
get a better, more realistic present worth.
Okay, we've got borough staff who has some information, I
So
think.
the question.
Can you speak in the mic?
Sorry. The question was brought up is Betty's lot being assessed unequitably to the surrounding areas. Most of them are, like they said, borough-owned. But there is one right across the street, maybe? Is that Kalen Alberg? Is it just in that same area, maybe right across the non-existing street, right? 5,000 square foot lot. So Arnie did value it like he valued it like the rest of these ones, which is what he's saying that they're wanting to value Betty's as now. So he gave it a 22,500 base based on the 5,000 square footage minus 60% for lack of utilities and access, which came to a value of $9,000 for a 5,000 square foot lot I think these are Betty's and this one's right there. So that's unfortunately the only one I can find in that area, but just to give you an idea on what others in that same area with the same characteristics are being assessed at. So I think it's unequitable, or the things you're looking for are a base and whether it's equitable. So here's one. Excuse me. I can make you a copy of it if you want.
There's this lot, the last house on Wrangell Avenue, and Wrangell Avenue does not go any further. If it did go, it would connect onto Valkyrie. But that lot, the house, there's two lots, and the house takes up, I'm talking down here. There is zero value on this lot that is along Valkyrie Street.
No lots owned, privately owned, should have a zero value unless it was missed.
That's what it has on the internet.
Arnie does not ever give a zero value for anything. Our map, if you read it, it says it doesn't necessarily link up 100%. That value may be included in this one, and I'll go pull that file right now. And then we
Okay.
can
And this,
look at it.
see the size of this compared to this.
Yeah.
That's 40. But anyway, I don't know, just,
So Arnie, if we were consistent with the lot that Amber just brought in, what would that result in as an assessment for these two parcels? And does anybody need a break? We can take a quick break if we need. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break while Arnie calculates. Thank you.
Let me show you my problem I have with this chart.
Yeah, I think I'm coming around.
We're looking at, I guess, right? So this
All
would
right,
be
so-
that one right there behind.
I'm confused.
Watson's, Ray Olson. Okay.
Times.
And this is the warehouse that just burnt down? Is that right by the warehouse that just burnt down? Is that, you remember that warehouse fire that was, I
3 Marble.
was talking to Clyde, remember the warehouse fire that had, what was his name there that lives up there? He used to work for the city. Had-
Eli?
What was his name?
How long ago, Kurt? Magnus Jacobs?
Magnum Shakes, that was, so it's right there bordering on that property that where warehouse burnt? Betty's, yeah, okay. I'm familiar with the area.
We're
Yeah,
going to
it's
call
right.
ourselves back in session. So were you able to make a quick
Magnus was on
calculation?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
And-
this was his warehouse.
The lot that I proposed at 30,900, if I were to use the same criteria before rounding, I would come with 30,873, which I would round up to the next 100. So that would make it 30,900. And I believe that's what I proposed. And on the other one, using exactly the same criteria, it would increase the assessment from 88 to 98. Now, my suggestion was 8,800, working the same thing as this lot that Amber brought in, would make the assessment 9,800. So, I don't know.
You have a comment?
Yeah, I'm still back trying to look at the methodology here. And from where Arnie was at, I don't see, and based on your current one, I don't see a bust in the logic, so to speak, of the methodology used. And so that criteria to me would have to be out. Is it unequal to some of the other ones? And there was there was some other ones brought to our attention, which I think Amber's looking at right now. We're talking about a zero valuation, which I don't think any of the lots that are owned, there's zero value.
No, if there's a zero valuation, then we missed that card.
Yeah.
Amber just explained that.
Okay, so
That
those
much.
those questions of yours have been answered.
The bad website.
It's,
And I don't see it as an improper value, so I would move that we need to leave the assessment as the assessor stated.
Yes.
Having trudged around a lot of properties, over the years, different islands and whatnot, hunting and things like that, there are better places to sit in deer stands than there is on standing in knee-deep high muskeg holes, so, looking at this one piece of property that this guy bought, which was just adjacent to the Swanson properties, that's heavily wooded, which means you don't have a lot of bog there. To me, I think some of the criteria that we probably ought to be looking at in the near future here is the ease of building on a piece of property. Because if the city owns the majority of that light blue stuff there, you're never going to sell that with a property value of $8,000. You have like a land grab and say, make us an offer on it, you'd get rid of that piece of property, in probably minutes, because people won't care if it's, knee-deep in just walking out to the middle of it, in bog and all the stuff that we have. So I think we need to reevaluate how we're evaluating muskeg, and then adding it into places that are already developed, because as far as I'm concerned, there's too much light blue area there to include houses that are already built on, that ground that maybe not quite as boggy as that other ground is, So if you could have cut that area down and said, this area here is going to be assessed at $450, and some of this area that we can't even give away, is assessed at a much lower value, I think you might get
And I
people.
think I did.
Well, but I don't think you did it fairly, because you took people that have already got homes on Wrangell Avenue, or not Wrangell Avenue, but Lake Street and some of those places, and placed those values at like $450, and then you gave them an increase because they got water, sewer, and roads access to them.
No, that $450 considered the presence of all those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if we can't sell that property, then it's valueless, as far as I'm concerned. And that's kind of my point,
So we actually have a motion on the table that's waiting for a second.
Dies for lack of a second.
Pardon?
Dies for lack of a second.
Gonna second it.
If there's no second, then
Have an alternative?
I don't think the Board of Equalization has the power to change the method of evaluating unless we change the way they evaluate all of it, and I don't think we want to do that.
I don't think we have that option here.
Yeah.
I cannot show that it was improperly
Could I ask a question?
evaluated myself from what we've discussed here. You could go to Kurt's point and look at it from a much broader perspective, but that's a whole different issue.
what's your question?
How did we get to decide how we evaluate things in the first place, starting before?
Arnie may be able to speak to that, but I believe that's methodology that starts from the state that is interpreted locally, and then we revise it based on appeals and discussion about what the values of property are, plus sales records. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it comes from the state?
The process originates with the state.
When we became the contractees or contractors 7 years ago, we inherited values. Values that we were unable to get explanations as to how they were arrived. And so what we're seeing were great areas of inequity where people side by side were in sometimes being valued twice the square footage value as the next door neighbor. And so we were trying to come to a common ground where everybody, like location, was valued the same. And so we spent a couple of weeks pulling cards and looking and saying, this is a 5,000 square foot lot, it's this value, we divided it out, came up to the square footage per, and then we said, what is the prevalent per square foot value in an area? And that's what we started with. And we did that in these little, what I call project areas. There was the North Nordic Drive, there was there was Wrangell Avenue facing, there was the, I don't even know what you call that area, but the city subdivided years ago, created that big subdivision. There's Upper Sandy Beach, there's Sandy Beach on the water, and then airport subdivision in the surrounding area, and then what I call kind of Old Town or Core Town. And we chose a project area from Haugen to Sandy Beach, the airport to Nordic Drive, and we tried to come up so there was commonality, because, you know, you can't say that a 5,000 square foot lot up on Valkyrie, and there are none, is worth 165,000 like one of the lots on Sandy Beach. And so that gave a differentiation, okay. We don't have like areas, recognize that and value accordingly. Now, if there had been any kind of methodology that was apparent to valuing all this land, then certainly we would have carried forward. What we're trying to do now is establish a base upon which to work.
So a question then, it has nothing to do with sales values of parcels.
We discussed that on Saturday, and as we all know, this is a non-disclosure state. So most deeds these days say $10 and other valuable considerations.
Well,
does that give me guidance? No. Do I think?
Hang on just a second.
So
Hang on just a second. Amber.
You have to go to a mic, sorry.
For conversation purposes, every year we have to do a annual report on annual report of all of our assessments. We have to what the assessed values are. We also have to do a sales comparison ratio. We have to put the parcels that were sold, what the assessed values were, and what the sales prices are. Of course, we're a non-disclosure state, so it can be a little bit difficult. However, Arnie and Mike usually are able to work together with some local realtors and use deed of trust to come up with a number. We are mandated by the state to be within, they would like us to be 100% fair, 100%, but of course that's not realistic. I think we're at 92% right now.
And I think Arnie said that at the beginning.
And so, you know, just to let you know, it's, while these numbers aren't something that, you know, they've come up with, we do use local sales to make sure that we are in line. And that's how we came up with some of these areas are, you know, vacant land that was sold. And people do come forward and say, yes, I bought this for this much. So that's kind of, you know, to let you know, it wasn't just shooting from the hip and coming up with a number. They do use sales, and every year we have to do this report, and it tells us whether we're in line with where we're supposed to be or not.
If I could add to it, too. If we purely use sales, these lots that the Currys are talking would be dramatically higher, because the existing sales, we can go back to the auction that Mr. Swanson bought those lots. Clearly, that wouldn't be fair. There were extenuating circumstances, and that's why this stuff was taken into account. That's why this is a challenge, because, you know, again, if we took sales data here, we're back up ridiculous numbers.
sale.
If we can go through the chair, I'd appreciate that, so we keep the conversation flow. So what is the wish of the BOE?
I'm still back to the point that I can't make the connection that that Arnie used incorrect methods to evaluate that property.
I'm really having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I'm still having a problem to see where Arnie used incorrect logic and methodology to make his valuation.
So you're saying he did not?
He did not, as I see it. And
that's the only thing that we can judge on.
That's right.
Improper, excessive,
Even though,
or equal.
you know, on a side note, that I believe that, you know, we really need to reevaluate Muskeg, you know, a buildable stuff that's suitable for building, completely different than places that have already had places built on them. So that's like 2 cents worth.
Yeah. Well, and I have no disagreement that at some future date, we probably need to take a different look or a different approach on some parts of that. But for the purposes here, I don't see that he did anything, he was correct in his methodology, in his valuation, unless somebody shows me something different.
Then I need a motion.
I move that we accept Arnie's assessment.
I'll second that.
It's been moved.
Reduced one, I mean, the one that they've settled on, or that he
Let's
went down to
look at
88?
To see
Offered.
his offer of
So the offer is
39 and 88,
30,000.
30,988. Yeah.
and 8,800.
And you're in agreement, Bob? You're seconding
Yes.
that? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the assessor's revised evaluation for this property. Is there any other discussion?
Give me access, and I would have no problem with the tax.
So when can we expect the road to go in then?
I would like to think that what you could expect from me anyway is a completely different way that we consider property that is absolutely valueless here next year. Because the muskeg. I mean, that to me is just ridiculous because it's too much light blue area, and I happen to know that. Okay. Well, I mean, if that
Called?
was it okay.
It's been moved and seconded.
Okay,
We
all
have a
right.
motion on the table.
Okay. No more discussion. Sorry.
Will the clerk call a roll?
Nancy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes. All right.
I do think you're making a point that we need to look at, that we need to go back, look.
can't look at it tonight.
No,
No.
you can't. No, you're right.
Thank you.
But I just
Thank
want
you, Bob.
I want you guys to be assured that
And thank you for
This will be
raising the
addressed.
issue. I
Yeah.
mean, this does
Okay.
look like something we need to look at.
it's not right.
Nothing personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Then let's move back to item C.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, here we go.
Cindy?
Which one?
Oh, after.
It's the
Item
other
C.
property. The other property
Number
they have.
39.
That was your mother's. Now it's
135.
Did you have a question, Deb?
No, go ahead.
40. It's this one here now. Bob.
135, 140, and 109. And I think you probably want to look at them separately.
So we can take 135 and 140 together. They're adjacent lots.
Hearing no objection? Is that okay, that we consider them together? Thank you.
I'll make this really quick.
Do you have anything to preface that with?
Let them start.
Okay.
Okay, these two lots are side-by-side lots on the Mitkoff side down below Blind Slough. Probably about half a mile from Chuck Tinus's place, if that rings a bell. Anyway, they've been for sale at assessed value for more than 2 years. Nary a nibble. No nibbles, no bites, no offers, no nothing. And in my view, that makes them worth less than they are assessed for. I'll go ahead and entertain your vote.
When I talked to the realtor, she said there was absolutely no question, nobody questioned, nobody wanted more information, nothing. She said there no interest whatsoever.
So, in order for us to consider this, is there a valuation that you think is correct?
No, there isn't. I give up. They apparently have no value.
Are these valued at the same square footage or whatever, the same?
They were valued the same criteria back, back in 2014, remember, we had 197 appeals in the Narrows. And what came out of that was There were many land adjustments, and after the Board of Equalization, even those that had not appealed were gone, went back and reconsidered them so that everybody, again, was treated equally. There have been no changes now. As far as current sales, happily got one that was recorded 5 days ago, and it's at assessed value. And however you want to consider it, there were 2 other appeals this year on land parcels down there, and in both cases, they said it seems to be inequitable with, and they highlighted some parcels. I pulled those all out, and I said, your lot is a little bit bigger than theirs. Came out, your lot is 3.6 acres, theirs was calculated at 3.03 acres. Yes, there is a difference, but if you do the math on it, they come out, they are both treated exactly the same. And that, for that land, $12,750 an acre, and when you multiply that by the acreage, the square footage actually, or the acreage, in that case, they came out, and he said, I have no problem with it. I thought they were the same size. But, as we talk about local and current sales, I have one 5 days ago, and it's apparently sold at assessed value.
Was that the one in Keene Channel? Or was that bare lot, or was there improvements on that one?
There were no improvements, it was bare land.
So just to clarify the process with you, the criteria that we're given, and I don't know whether you're given that at the time that you appeal or at the time that you get your value, but we're given 3 criteria by which to judge Arnie's assessment, whether it's excessive, unequal, or improper. You have the burden of showing how it failed on any one of those 3 points.
Okay, I guess what Clyde is distressed about, I think they're
Can I finish, please?
all overvalued.
Can I finish, please?
I'm sorry.
So under the excessive criteria, it says to show that an assessment is excessive, an appellant must show that the assessment is more than just overvalued. It must be shown that the assessment is grossly disproportionate when compared to other assessments. Or it can be shown that there's an intentional or fraudulent purpose to place an excessive valuation on the property. For it to be shown unequal, you have to show that an assessment, the appellant must show that there are other properties in the same class as the property being appealed, and that there's no basis that would justify different valuations of the property. To show that it's improper, and the appellant must show that the assessor used an improper method of valuation, which amounts to fraud or a clear adoption of a wrong principle of valuation. So I'm not saying to you that your concern is incorrect, but you haven't met the burden of presenting an argument that we can judge these against.
Come from?
That's part of the Board of Equalization rules, and that's the method by which we have to evaluate appeals.
And it's under state
From the
statute.
state or from?
Yes, state statute.
Okay.
And so the state is
Thank
making
you.
rules
Thank you.
so that the person can't do it.
No, the state is making a rule that provides a process for you to make your case.
Except it doesn't allow the one.
Well, but you can't just say, I don't agree with my evaluation and anticipate a change.
Said that we couldn't sell it at any price, so it, in my mind, therefore, it is valueless. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't have any value, of course, but no one wants it.
I think what we're trying to get at, too, is it seems like all of the lots around Wrangell Narrows with no access are probably assessed too high. And I think we understand that this is going to stay like it is. We can't, it's in line with the other lots there. I'm not saying it isn't. It is. So,
Yeah, in fact,
But I don't disagree with you. To me, it seems like they may be overvalued, and it's something we need to look at. But based on the information you're bringing forward, I feel like there's not a lot for us to move forward with.
okay, we get that.
we get that, no
Okay,
problem.
so-
But we would like to request that you take a look at these values and talk to the realtors because they say there is no interest whatsoever.
Okay.
So
I think
and-
that's fair.
And we're okay with that. Next one.
I have a couple questions for you. Those lots are on the Mitkoff side of Blind Slough? Is that these lots?
I'd have to look at the map page to tell you. I'm not sure.
And there has been not much activity down there, because since I live out that way, there has not been very many lots sold over the whole year, really, in that whole area that I'm aware of.
Certainly not without road access.
Yeah.
I move we accept the assessment by Arnie.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we accept the assessor's valuation on parcels 035 and 140.
135 and 140.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at it, saying one thing and thinking another. That's correct. 135 and 140.
Where's that other tax stuff?
Ready for the vote?
Get ready for the vote.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So then we still have parcel 109.
No.
I'm gonna walk up to the map. Second smallest lot on this whole. And as you can see, these lots all go out. Yes, to mean high water. This is all tidelands owned by the state here. And you can see that home and this lot do not, or that one, or that one. So it's about
If you can speak into the mic, yeah. Thanks.
It's about 6,500 square feet, and it's kind of valued really high, considering that it's filled with dirt from the road excavation, which is just not shot rock. And going to do anything with it. We're not even sure there's enough square footage there to build a house on. And we can't get the city to tell us that. They say, bring a building plan. Well, we're not going to go buy a building plan and bring it to get shot down. We don't want a house anyway, but we don't know if we can build on it just from the size. The lot our house is on is actually smaller, but the house was built before they had laws, so that's why that happened. Anyway, we're hoping for some kind of relief on this lot, value.
So Arnie, explain to me how you valued all those lots along Sandy Beach. Did you just by homeowner and the size of lot that they had, or is it by square footage?
We had a base value, 0 to 12,000 square feet was 165,000. And then from there, the next 4,000 square feet in size, we determined $6 a foot. And then after that, then from there up, it would be $3 a square foot. Unless it was brought to our attention, say through an appeal, that it was impacted by the tidelands or other factors, because the tidelands are valued, but at a far lesser rate. Now, on this lot, I especially, and when I spoke with the Currys on Saturday, I said I would go to up to community development today and see about that lot. And I was told by the community development director, although it's small, it is a legally existing, non-conforming lot. because it was created prior to the zoning for that area. Therefore, she saw no reason that it could not be built upon. Now, the size of the structure, we didn't get into.
Yeah.
But could it be used for a building lot? It could, because it was a legally non-conforming lot.
Are there setbacks on that, Arnie?
And there would be setbacks, and I don't know what the zoning ordinance for that area is.
20 feet.
So,
Can I speak?
Yeah.
We were told by Roger Krieger, who was the city manager, that this lot would be grandfathered in because it was below the minimum square feet. And the state condemned another,
3 feet.
they condemned 387 square feet, which took it down even smaller. So I'm glad our question is answered. I've been asking over the years at planning and zoning and could not get an answer unless we submitted building plans. So thank you for that. But when they reassessed everything along Sandy Beach Road, the base was $165,000 for every lot along Sandy Beach Road. That was their starting price, no matter what the size of the lot. And if it was over 12,000 square feet, then it would be additional. Our lot is 6,834 square feet. So it's half of what they're basing the 12,000 square feet. Years ago, when they reassessed it at 160, was that 2009? They had assessed that at 165,000, and we contested it, and the assessor was so glad we did. He said, "I was so glad you did, because I was hoping you would," instead of just figuring out what might be fair anyway. So he said, we agreed on 100,000 for that lot, which it remained until 2017, and it bumped back up to 165.
I have a comment. I own boats, and I pay for the amount of capacity that the boat is able to pack. I don't buy a 58-foot sailboat at 18 feet wide for $3 million, but I will pay $3 million for a Fred wall that is 26 feet wide and 58 feet long. Why are we assessing each one of these pieces of property out there, regardless of their size, the same value? And everywhere else we're doing it by the square footage. That's my question. And I know we can't debate that right now, because that's something that I want to bring up to planning and zoning before we, we may not be able to do anything here because that's the way the rules have been set up now, but I'm just saying in the near future, we need to look at, some of these ways that we're evaluating property.
That was...
And equity. I mean, if somebody has a 12,000 square foot home or lot, and they're going to pay $10 a square foot, and you got a 4,000 square foot lot, same place and area, you should pay the same amount per square foot. Per square footage. Not $3 million for this boat and $3 million for a smaller boat. You know what I mean? I mean, that to me doesn't make any sense.
And I pulled up the 2016 assessed value on lots along Sandy Beach Road. This is the list of the ones that are less than 165, even though their lots are way bigger than ours. And it goes anywhere from 75,000 up to 160, the ones that I did pull up. Something's not quite right here.
How did we?
That's why he's working on bringing parity to the assessments, because there's so much. One house or one lot is 75,000, and right next door to it is 165,000, and that's what he's been working at, is bringing parity to the assessing of them.
2004, there was a 50% increase. 2009, a 67% increase. 2017, a 65% increase. Want to say something?
So can we assume, you pulled these off the website, right?
Yes.
Can we assume that these are today's valuations, or are these last year's valuations?
No, it's last year's.
Have you revalued everything out there?
Yes.
See all those green lots?
Yeah.
They were all reassessed.
Okay.
So they're all the same now.
They're not, they're based on their size. They're not, if you went down the whole row of 60-plus lots, they're not all at 165. No. There are some that are over 200. There are some that, in one case, the lot was 35,000 square feet. 23,000 square feet of it is tidelands. So it was, yes, it started at 165 for that 10,000 square feet, but the rest was valued at less because it's tidelands, and tidelands, although they have use, are a much lesser value. They're 30% of the upland value.
Wow. That's weird.
So, you know, going out Nordic Drive here, where you have all the tidelands, the upland value may be $9 a square foot, but the tidelands are 30% of it. They're calculated at 30% of that value.
That seems bad.
They don't have nearly the utility of the uplands, but they still have a value.
Okay, so I guess the issue is that we're taxed at the very same amount as a lot that is twice our size is. We're assessed at we're assessed at 12,000 square feet when our lot is 6,800. Does that sound fair?
I was going to say, I'm not even going to go there.
No.
But did you have a comment?
I'm just asking, does it sound fair?
Okay, we're going to wave the white flag here. My parting comment is this piece of paper, if this came out with the assessments, it would save a lot of grief, because then we would know how you got where you got. We didn't know that.
You mean the calculations for it?
Yes.
Yeah, this little information sheet. I mean, it'd be real comfort. You could figure out how you got to where you got.
Yes, Amber.
I can answer that for you. The map was on the back of the assessment notice, and it said, for more information and how we came to your valuation, please click on the website. And in big, bright red letters, it said, assessment information, click here. And it has that valuation that you guys all received from the assessors, which showed the areas per square foot, the valuations for those per square feet, and, you know, all the square footages that went along with them. That information was available to the public. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough room on the back of the form to include it because it was 2 pages long. But we did have the map, and that way people knew if you're in this highlighted area, and it was color-coded, it looked just like that. I think you guys all probably got one in the mail. And that way people knew this is where you were revalued, this is, you know, where the areas that were revalued, and then you could get online and see how those numbers came about. And just for information, so you know, that is available to the public, and this is going to fall on me.
I like to know better.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
Planning and zoning, or the assessment thing. How come we're not using dollars per square foot for properties? I understand. I mean, you know, like the green area should be whatever we decide the value is, because we've had home sales sell for that stuff and all that. You know, so I mean, I get that. I mean, if you want to call it $50 per square foot because it's all in the green there, because you've got records that other homes have sold for, and that's what people were willing to pay for that piece of property. So now you got a 10,000 square foot piece of property, you know, so it's $500,000. I'm just going to throw some wild numbers out there. Then you have a $5,000 or 5,000 square foot piece of property. You shouldn't be paying the same as a $500,000 guy. You should be paying $250,000 for that piece of property. You see? So I mean, that's why I find the inequity in this particular case. Instead of just saying the lot that was just purchased, you know, locally here, you know, is going to pay $165,000. Then you got this little mouse house on a piece of property, and they're going to pay $165,000. To me, that seems unfair. So, I mean, I understand at this point we can't change any of that, but I'm going to definitely be working.
Well, you know, that comes out of this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this is perfect, but at least we tried to make it equitable. Now, kind of an answer to your question, all those lots along Sandy Beach on the water were valued previously, historically, by site value. They said, okay, they're all going to be worth X. Well, then, how do you determine an equitable square foot value when they're all done just on if it's going to be X square feet, it's going to be this value. If it's this, we're going to go up $20,000 or $30,000. There wasn't evidence of where those breaks were. There were breaks.
I was gonna say, why should
So
there be-
then how do you determine
Yeah.
a square foot value when, if you divide out the site values, they all differ?
Well,
And so, you know, I'm not trying to be flippant
Right, no,
or
I
smart.
understand.
I'm
No.
saying if you've got something,
Right.
but still, when you start dividing it up by everybody's square footage,
Yeah.
it varies.
Can we
How do
average,
you?
can we average it out, though? Can you take the whole entire area, you know, and then average out what the square footage is for that entire, no, regardless of the different valuations, you know, over the
Right.
periods? Then could you say, okay, because, you know, you've got, I don't know, 50,000, you know, whatever.
That's for a later conversation.
Yeah, well, okay, but I'm just saying, but this is, I know, I understand it, but
Yeah,
this is
we're
what's supposed to come out of this.
approaching 12 o'clock
This is what's supposed to come out of this
And then-
meeting, this
Yeah.
And then you,
methodology.
just of course, you all know that as, say, a land parcel, much like an improvement, as it becomes larger, its per square footage value descends. So in other words, if we were to say, Sandy Beach lot, if theirs were valued right now at $12 a square foot, just, okay, there's someone down here that's got 5 acres, 216,000 square feet. Should we have, is their lot worth then whatever that number is?
$12, yeah, sure, I would think so.
Apparently so, if it's 1050 a square foot.
so I don't,
So is their lot, their 5-acre lot, worth $2.6 million?
You live in Juneau?
No, I live in Anchorage.
Oh, Anchorage, oh.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to go
But we're
very far.
we're getting far
Yeah,
afield
we're way
here.
off.
We need to
So
hurry
there
through it.
again, we tried to find something that was equitable. We had site values, and how do you then come up with, you know, possibly your idea of add everything together and come out, but,
With an average.
like I say, how do you average when you've got a 5-acre parcel that might be at $3 a foot because of its size, and a 10,000 square foot lot that's at $10 a foot because, I don't know.
And this is going to be my last comment, madam, if you don't mind me saying this. I worked in the shipyard too, and people used to come in and say, can I get a piece of scrap, piece of wood from you? You know, just about a 1 foot by 1 foot. And you go, what are you going to do, burn it? And they go, no, we're going to use it for something. Well, then it's not valueless. So if you've got a 5-acre piece of property there that's right alongside of that smaller piece of property, that value should be $12 a square foot, just as that other piece. And the owner should know that, and the buyer should know that, because he could subdivide that, he could do whatever he wants, and make that thing worth $12 a square foot.
That's what he's making.
Anyway, I'm
Just one question before we, on this methodology.
Jean's been waiting, so I'm going
Okay.
to let her speak.
okay, so the base price, 165,000 for all of those lots, that is a 12,000 square foot lot. And if it's bigger than 12,000 feet, then you add onto that. So why don't you take off of that? Why don't you take off of that? Ours is half that size, so why isn't our assessment half of that? Why can't you go that way also? When you raise it, if the lot's bigger, why can't you lower it if it's way smaller?
Because that doesn't raise more money. It's very simple.
Where would somebody be?
Because the direction, I guess the simple answer, the direction I was given is the smallest site value will be $165,000.
And we know you inherited a mess.
And I'm not going to make any excuses. That's the bald fact.
Where did that direction come from?
The contract assessor who I work for.
His instructions from the borough?
We hired.
No,
We hire an
No.
assessor.
From the state, then?
No, we hire the assessor. He's under contract.
But he's asking, where did this 165 base price for 12,000 square feet. Where did that rule?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think any of us do. We'd have to ask.
From zero to
Go ahead.
12,000.
I was just going to say, that doesn't come from Borough, so.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
The only thing I can assume, and that's a bad word, so take it at that value, which is he did an analysis that said, the valuations over time. But I do not know that for sure. That's a question that Arnie would have to ask, Mike Renfro. The borough does not set minimum values on any of this. In fact, we stay arm's length from all of it and let the assessor tell us what's the valuations based on how they calculate this so that we're within the state guidelines. So, where that number would come from, you'd have to ask Mike Renfro.
So, Arnie, how many non-conforming properties are there along that? Are there very many?
I did not measure that.
Are there several?
I don't believe there are.
Okay.
I think each lot, some obviously would, I think that every lot would be developable, if I understand community development correctly. And the Currys are the only people that said, well, we're not really sure if our lot can even be developed. And so the best I could do is go talk to community development and say, this is what exists. Are there restrictions on it? And they said it's a legally non-conforming lot. Therefore, it may be utilized.
Well, I just wondered,
And so
is
I
it
don't-
the only non-conforming lot that, or are
I
there a
think
number
that
of them?
probably, if their house was not on that piece of land, that would also,
Right.
Yes.
because it's smaller
And
than
the next
the one we're
as well.
kicking around, right? So,
There's 3 at least on Center Beach Road.
back to the question, where did the original 165 come from? That then the assessor at that time lowered to 100, and what did he use as a criteria?
The view.
He thought our lot was so small, it was not fair that we were assessed at 165, and he said, I'm so glad you contested it, because he saw how unfair it was, unbalanced. There's only, well,
But how did he pick $100,000 as a fair value?
we threw numbers out, and that's what we came up with. We accepted.
But how did he, if I had that
He
criteria,
didn't use numbers. He just used his mouth.
He said, give me a number, so we gave him a number.
But at this, another question would be,
so he just said, okay, I'll reduce it 40%.
I believe so.
But, that's what it came out, I just divided the two.
Yes.
How,
So rather than get into
what
a
criteria, I've got a criteria that I tried to use for valuing it. What criteria did he use to lower it? I'm not arguing that perhaps it shouldn't be lowered, I'm just saying what criteria has been developed.
And I guess what I was asking you are there properties of similar size and similar assessment along Sandy Beach Road?
Yes,
Is your house lot similarly assessed?
yes,
it's even smaller.
yes.
Right.
We're not contesting the house one. We'll pay our fair share.
So, given that there are other lots with similar assessments, what are you saying that your assessment is excessive, unequal, or improper? And if it's excessive, how is it disproportionate to other assessments on Sandy Beach Road?
It is excessive because our lot is half the size of the base square footage.
But you just said there are lots of similar size that are similarly assessed, that are valued at a similar
That
amount.
makes it okay.
So we have 2 of those lots. I think there's one more. I don't recall right now who owns it. Yours isn't assessed at the Sandy Beach 165.
I can't remember, I lost but it's much higher than it was last year. However, it's not half the size either. It's long and skinny, so it,
Yeah.
But based on the 3 criteria that we have to evaluate
Yes,
your
okay.
appeal against,
Ask me one
Excessive-
at a time, please.
All right, so the three things are excessive, unequal, or improper, and you need to show not more than that it's just overvalued. How is it disproportionate compared to other assessments?
So I have to look up all the lots that are under 12,000 square feet.
Is your valuation similar to a lot of similar size in the same area?
Yes, because we own the other lot. That's,
Oh, you said there was.
And are there no others?
I believe there's one that's small, not as small as ours, but one.
The Omer lot.
And is that valued at approximately the same
Yes, she
amount?
has never contested it. She doesn't live here. She's not here.
Who is this? Where is this?
I don't know if Judy's is. I don't know how to answer that. I'm sorry, I don't have that information right in front of me.
Understood.
Cindy, I'm going to go along with your question, Arnie. Was there any other criteria used out there to reduce that 165 valuation?
No.
Okay, just checking to make sure we're consistent.
I guess I would like to request in the future that it is based on the actual square footage and not just the base one of 12,000 square feet. I would like that.
Not going to happen.
Noted. We don't
Noted, yes.
get to make that call, but we hear what you're saying. So do we have a motion?
Or move.
Well, we need a motion.
Okay, I move that we accept the appraiser or the assessor's valuation.
Well, second.
It's been moved and seconded. We accept the assessor's evaluation. Is there any further comment? Will the clerk call the roll?
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yep.
And the assessor's valuation stands.
I do think you bring some things that we need to look at.
I do too.
I hope
Thank you.
so.
And I
certainly
can see a
hope
simple
so.
solution.
I mean, this is not fun.
No.
I know, and
And it's not, it's ridiculous, the way we're doing this.
yes.
It really is.
Solution to this.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're next.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
you're on the
appreciate it.
list
Thanks for
now.
bringing this up. You can leave it back there on the.
Okay.
Or maybe leave it right there
Taking
so,
the time to
so they can also, hey, Gene, I want to leave it right there so that they can also read the, yeah.
Consideration there.
What's that?
I say I appreciate your comments, and certainly that will
I think what you do is
Okay.
help a lot in doing this in the future.
with the assessed value,
But then how many?
prior sales, and whatnot, and then you come up with a flat rate of square footage.
Thanks a lot, and good beachcombing.
Well, no, it has to be what, by the square foot. That part, the assessment square foot. Regardless of-
We're still in session. Yes. We're still in session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, yes.
Sorry, guys.
The next one on the list is Melinda Hofstad, parcel 230.
I didn't hear what you said.
You're up.
Okay, I'm up. Well, I'm withdrawing my appeal, but I would like to say a couple things about the process, if that's okay. I'll just be real quick.
Sorry. We're getting used to you.
Well, you have a big job ahead of you here with assessments and getting a fair process, and I did want to compliment our assessors. I think they're really trying to do a good job, and this has been a big issue of mine, when I was on the council before, and I follow this pretty closely because I think it's what's going to make or break the town, because if we overtax people, and unfairly tax people, people won't be able to live here. And, we already have a lot of people that can't live here. So, I don't envy you. I've been sitting there, and it's not an easy place to sit. But, and I do commend getting a formula, because the prior assessor 7 years ago, and when we had the years back from the same one, not to point any fingers, but he didn't really have a formula, and when people would come, there was nothing you could point to. So I think having a formula is excellent, and I really commend you and your assessors for having a formula. But I'm not exactly, I don't think we've come to the place where the formula is what we want it to be yet, that it's really fair. Just for an instance, my house on Nordic Drive, the land underneath it went up $45,000 this year. And I don't think my land went up $45,000, but I can see that I don't meet the criteria that you have to consider it, so I'm just withdrawing my my protesting. But I think that I really agree. I listened to the Currys. I really agree that I like her idea that, like, maybe the formula could have you could have the start it so you have it for little tiny bitty lots. And you could have it, you wouldn't start on Sandy Beach at 165, but it could start, at a lower place. Because I can remember when I was on the Board of Equalization, we had someone come, and she had a very small lot on Sandy Beach, and we reduced it because it was really a dinky little lot. And it wasn't the size of an average lot. And I think you got to tweak that, and work with the assessor. The other thing that is not fair in this formula is that on the upper side of Sandy Beach, there's a deduction if it's not a developed lot. If it's a muskegee lot, you can deduct. Well, I have half of my lot on the upper part of Nordic is just absolutely muskeg holes. If you step back there in the dark, you might fall up to your neck, and you might never come out. So anyway, I think the formula needs to be done. But the other thing, I did call the state assessor just to find out some more information about the process. And really what your job is, your job and the assessor's job is to have fair market value. That's what the statute says. So all these other things about, all the little details, about muck holes or sinkholes or, how well developed a piece of property is. It doesn't say that in statute. It says fair market value on January 1 of each year. And that brings me to my one last point, and that is the way that we've always done the taking 3 or 4 years to go through the city and have certain areas, like on this map up here, you've got the certain area that they emphasize this year. But that means that potentially, if they go 4-year rotation, potentially in 4 years from now, we'll be way off the fair market value because they won't be attending and focusing on our area, meaning, Nordic Drive and Sandy Beach and, the downtown core. So I just wonder that, the state assessor said that's okay. But I don't think it really meets what the law says, which is full and full market value on January 1 of every year. So that's really what you have to apply, and the assessor has to apply. So here's what I say: good luck, and thank you for serving.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.
The next parcel up is parcel 216.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Pollock, and I'm the owner of 6A, and it is on North Nordic Drive.
What was the address?
It's lot 6A on North Nordic. And when we originally purchased the property, we were told that it was half a city lot. The way I've explained it here, and I'm back to your 3 criteria for disputing this assessment. And I guess at this point I would bring in the fact that 7A, lot 7A, which is on the other side, one side of me is 6B, the other side is 7A. 7A's assessment is $165,000 this year. That comes to about comes to $5 or $11 per square foot that person is assessed. My property is assessed at $22 a square foot. And that's why I'm saying I'll go on that basis of it not being fair. And, my 6A and 6B are the front of a lot. I got actually a quarter of a lot, and it's 6B has the other quarter. And then right behind us, that's lot 6. So I have no frontage on Wrangell Avenue, and neither does the lot right next to me. The other argument I gave is if you put 6A and 6B together, ours would be evaluated at $230,000, whereas separately, and then Lot 7A is evaluated at $165,000, and yet it's a third larger than our two combined lots, and yet it's that much smaller in assessment. But going back, I guess, to the fact that I'm paying $22 a square foot, and the lot right next to me is paying $11 a square foot. And, I just leave it at that.
So you have two lots, and together they're...
No, I just have the one lot. I have 6B. I'm sorry, 6A. And Heidi Lee is 6B.
Go ahead.
Arnie, is that, when you, the 110, 120, is that for the land itself or the land and the value of the house and all the improvements?
Just the land.
That's the land.
Land alone?
I could mention, too, in 2014, I also applied for an adjustment and received it, and in 2014, they evaluated it at 110, and they dropped it down to 65. And now, 3 years later, it's gone up, and so my tax has gone up $55,000. The assessment value.
Yes.
So you said, I guess I can use names. Oh, I won't use names. 6B is paying $11 a square foot,
Yes, that's,
and 6A is paying $22 a square.
no, I'm 6A, go with 6A. Okay, I'm $11, I'm $22 a square foot.
You're $22 a square foot, and
Now
6B is paying,
No, 6B is probably the same as I am, about $22 a square foot, because we each have what used to be called a quarter of a city lot. 7A is being assessed at $11 a square foot. That lot goes all the way back to Wrangell Avenue. 7A, or 6A and 6B do not go back to Wrangell Avenue.
Arnie, can you speak to why Lot 7A, which could be subdivided, it looks to me like, is valued only at $11 a square foot, and the ones that are already subdivided and built on are assessed at 22?
No.
Okay.
And there are not improvements on 7A? Or there are?
7A, no.
Tracks from the value of the square footage of the property.
No, I'm just trying to,
Put those three lots together, it's about 280,000 versus 165. I know the lot size is a little bit different, but
And that was what I was questioning originally. Then I thought, okay, I have to go to uneven, the fact that we're paying $22 a square, or it's being assessed at
In my mind, there's one discrepancy here that would be considered unequal, and that would be either Lot 7A is getting a killer deal, or Lot 6 and B aren't sold. Or that's what the value should be. So.
Look at 6, Lot 6 is 55,000, and we're being assessed at 120 and 110.
Oh, so Lot 6 is the next one?
No, they're right behind us.
Oh, right behind.
On Wrangell.
If you look at my little
that one's, yeah,
picture.
I understand that one, yeah.
yet the one lot that's right next door did not appeal. And I'm not going to hang my head on that, but who am I to say that he or she doesn't feel that that's a fair value of their property?
Well, it seemed to me, though, we ought to use the logic the same.
But
Yeah.
I certainly understand the concern, and it's something that we certainly are going to consider, and I think make adjustments to the way, to provide for very small, very large, that weren't considered in the original scheme. So, this isn't, we're not doing this today with, worthlessly. It's coming to a good point that,
Yeah.
yes, there's a way for us to improve upon the system.
Yeah, so looking at this, though, and I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, to me, it looks like we do have an inequity here. That we need to either, as Kurt says, adjust one higher or three lower.
And I'd predicate that on depending on what you've done with the other lots of similar size further down Wrangell Avenue. Are all of the lots of similar size to 6A and 6B the same value versus, say, Lot 7 and...
Can I make another comment? As far as, I didn't realize this, but on Sandy Beach, the minimum is 12,000, and then anything below, but the minimum square footage on North Nordic is 5,000. And that seems to me unfair, too, that anything below 12,000 on Sandy Beach is assessed at a certain amount, and then it goes up from there. Whereas on North Nordic, it's 5,000, anything above that.
So I have to agree, based on the information presented, there does seem to be an inequity there. I'm trying to understand how you came to those.
The other part I would add to what Cindy says is we don't know what the value is on those other lots there, or what the differences are. But at least from what we're showing here, it seems to me that we do have to make an adjustment.
So in this case, without reading the DOE thing, is that something that Liz and the assessor can get together with and then hammer something out? Or is this their only opportunity to be able to...
I think this is it, but this year, Amber's going to come up to the mic.
Fill me in on all this.
Of unhelpful.
No, that's okay.
So, to be unequitable would mean that anyone else with her square footage at 110, that's not, she's valued at 110,000 based on her square footage, which would be the same for anyone else along the road that has her same square footage. Not just her next door neighbor being twice as big and getting twice as much. That would be a flaw, what you would consider then a flaw in Arnie's valuation. Based on the Nordic Drive sheet that we have, it's up to a certain amount of square footage is that value. And she is in line with that value, which would mean she is in line with everyone else on Nordic Drive and what their valuations are. That's not to say that just because 7A is bigger but not worth 3 times as much, that doesn't mean that she's not valued at the same as anyone else with that same square footage. So when you're saying unequitable, that would mean then we would have to redo anyone else with her same square footage or up somebody else's.
So simply put, I'm just going to use round numbers. 5,000 square foot home or lot all along North Nordic is going to be 1,000. 110,000.
I don't have the.
Well, that's what the assessment is.
Yes.
So that's what you said. So that's what the assessments are now.
That's what they came up with. Everyone was revalued based on their square footage. Nordic, just like Sandy Beach. So just like Prairie, some would be less, less square footage in the same amount.
Yeah, but you didn't use square footage, for the same amount per square footage. You used a square footage amount, but varied it depending on the size of the lot, from the looks of this.
So
I'm just saying that,
What I'm saying is if every home along there was worth $5 a square foot, regardless of size, I mean, so if you had a 100 square foot lot, it would be $500. If you had a 1,000 square foot house, it'd be you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's to me how would be an equitable way
Yeah.
of doing it, instead of just saying,
So-
$11 for this square foot and $22 for this one, next door neighbors, because that lot's bigger. See, to me, it has to be, in my mind, it has to be square footage per dollars per square foot. So,
well, and once we leave here as the Board of Equalization, then that is a conversation the Assembly can have, that I don't like the way you're doing it, but this is the way that we did it this year.
Okay.
And it's the first year, so it's going to be trial and error, and unfortunately, some people get stuck in the error part of it, but
I don't think we're arguing that, but using your logic then, Amber, then if it was up to 5,000 square feet, was valued at 110,000, then the lot 6 then should have been 110,000.
if they're 5,000 square feet,
Yeah.
or up to, I guess.
I don't know, Arnie would have that, I don't have that, or that information.
Well, you do have the fact that, and I wrote it down, that Lot 7A is 15,145, and you have 6A and 6B are 9,800, so that other one has to be at least 5,000. So but he's not assessed for that because he's not on North Nordic Drive.
Yeah, that's a different,
And that's what bothers me, is that half of this individual's property right next to mine, 7A, some of their property is assessed at a set price, and some is at square foot. And where do you
no,
designate?
everything along Nordic Drive was based on a square footage. So 7A is 165, which means they were somewhere between 12,500 and 15,000 square feet.
But it's one size fits all is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about individual square footage now, is what I want to try to see.
Yeah.
I don't want a one size fits all. I hate that.
And that's something we can work towards at a different date. What I'm just saying is she was not inequitable to everyone else that was her same square footage. That was the point I was making. Well, I'm not saying that you don't have to like the valuation that Arnie came up with. It was the same across the board. Everyone with that square footage was assessed at that amount.
Like you say, there's a lot of bugs in this right now, and these will have to get hammered out.
We did it, and we're just trying to get
Yes.
a base. And
Yeah, I don't blame the assessor for what they did. I'm just,
So I have somebody that needs to take a break. Do we want to take a longer break and allow people to grab a cup of coffee or something to eat, or do we just want to take a 5-minute break?
I can say that Doug is our only one left.
I won't take 5 minutes.
Still here.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's take a 5-minute break.
it'll fly. Well, there's going to be some, well, I mean, like you say, like, what are you going to do with muskeg that you can't use? It's probably that's going to be building.
Sitting with your kids or something.
Sure, we're all here.
All right, let's get started again. So, I'm trying to remember where we were at. We were looking at the various lot sizes. You had asked a question, Bob, about the equitability and the, refresh me on your
And
question.
the methodology of the use and whether or not it was different from the rest of them and how it,
Of all the rest, lots of similar
Right.
size.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
The
so,
answer was, no, it wasn't any different. And the-
Could I make one comment on it? There is a difference between North Nordic and Sandy Beach, but that's okay. I mean, the fact that we're being assessed from under 5,000, whereas Sandy Beach is under 12,000 square feet. That seems like an inequity in itself, too.
So are you saying, Liz, that your property should go to 165? If we use that criteria, the lot size for Sandy Beach should be 165?
No,
Regardless of size?
No, but after that, it goes 12,000. I feel I'm at a disadvantage because I'm just above 5,000. Well, I'm actually assessed at 12,000 because it jumps up on me. The next door neighbor is actually under 5,000. So is within that criteria.
Well, I think
That's
you raised-
okay, I'm okay with it.
I was going to
and
say, but I think on
understand.
Sandy Beach, it was 0 to 12,000.
Yeah.
It
was the
is 0 to
165.
12,
So
yeah.
that would actually raise
Right.
your assessment.
That's what I was saying.
No, mine's 0 to 12, yeah, but now that it's 0 to 5, I'm paying 100, I'm assessed at 120.
And I'm saying if you were on Sandy Beach, you'd be
Right.
assessed at 165.
Right, I just think it's kind of an inequity to just turn the corner, and maybe I'm at an advantage, but the people on Sandy Beach are not.
If I'm following you, you're saying that
And they should be, because they've actually got water side. I'm on the other side. I have a street, I have property that can be sold on the other side, so there should be a difference, I guess, if we're going to still consider view being important. I thank you for your time, and I understand what you have to do. I have one more quick comment, and then I don't, it's up to you, how do you decide? But it kind of bothers me that we're reassessing 1/3 of our city, so that those that are being reassessed are obviously being assessed higher. And so we're going to pay for the next 3 years as the other two catch up. The people that are assessed next year are going to pay for 2 years at an upper level. I think ideally it might be better if you reassess and then put it on hold where you actually charge, the property tax until we have all been assessed, because we kind of get the brunt of it the very first year. I don't know.
Did you have an explanation?
A lot of good comments have come out today of methodology and everything. And the contract assessor, Lila and I will get together in about 2 weeks, and we will talk about what came out of this meeting. And it may be that in the fall, we include you and with everybody else, and reevaluate everything. Say, okay, we started out with a system, we see some flaws, we're going to correct it now. I can't speak for Mike, but it will certainly get serious consideration, because they say there's some good things, and you could say there are inequities, and those should be corrected as soon as possible. Unfortunately, they won't be corrected today. But it doesn't mean that, that you're going to bear the brunt, as you say, for 3 years. But it always does. And other people get a break. We're going to try to make it equitable as possible now.
Oh, before, so that this is
For this
value is
year,
actually not for
For this year, you're going to get the assessment, whatever the board feels fair. But that does not mean, say, for the next...
2018?
For 2018, it would be the same number. Maybe we take all the good points here and say, okay, as Councilman here says, everything should have been calculated on a square footage. Everybody's treated the same.
So that 2/3, you'll reassess us next year if it changes, plus you'll be assessing the next third. Is that right? Am I understanding?
That is our intention.
Okay.
This was an area,
Well, and
it was
I'm
late in the
saying-
year when we started this, when they said, hey, consider this now. So we did that. I want to be all the way out to the original city limits in this next assessment cycle, plus any considerations for this. The area in the annexation area, we had a methodology for that differs from what you have here in the settled or urban area, if I might say urban area versus the rurals.
But
we try to accommodate everybody.
This
I make no promises,
is my
but
2017 assessment right before me that you just
that's
gave
what
me.
you have now.
Okay, so you're changing mine this year, and this is just a kind of a question to the committee is, okay, you're changing mine this year, but you're only changing 1/3 of the city, and then all of a sudden you decide to change it. We have had a year of readjustment, paid the readjusted value while the other 2/3 didn't. What I was thinking is, why don't we wait till you've reassessed everybody or found the formula you really want, and then we all paid the same year. We all you know, in 3 years, you say, okay, now we've got the formula we want, this is what everybody is abiding by. Because we'll have 3 years of.
How do we know when we have the perfect formula so everybody's happy?
Well, you're talking about that's what you're going to have a committee meeting to do that.
Well, I'm going to, the assessors, the three of us that work, and we're going to get together with Mike Renfro, the contract assessor, and say, hey, this were your recommendations of what we did. Here's the flaws possibly in the system. How can we make it better? And go back out there, look at these people, look at everybody else, and have a better mousetrap, as it were.
Does anybody else see my question? I don't think
I
it's
do,
you?
but you're kind of, we're kind
Okay,
of straying
yeah.
into a philosophical argument that I think probably isn't a part of this meeting.
It's not really a philosophical, because it's the difference between 1/3 of our population paying reassessed value this year, next year 2/3. And so if you reevaluate what we paid this year is flawed, but next year it'll be improved, but, okay, I'm done, thank you.
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you, Liz.
What did you pay last year in property value? What was your property value last year?
5,000.
65,000, and it went up 55,000, so it's
Wow.
another 500 and some odd dollars,
Wow.
$600.
Thank you,
I
Liz.
appreciate that.
Appreciate your comments.
Yeah, obviously, the comments have all been helpful,
Can I
and I think will help the
Expect one quick
process.
thing.
Into the
While some properties did go up, we had just as many that dropped down. So some people are going to pay $5,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 less in assessed value this year than they did last year. So it's in becoming equitable, like she said, you know, everybody to pay their fair share. I mean, these people are stoked this year because their values dropped and they're paying less in taxes than they were years before.
But I understand what she's saying. If we're only looking at a portion of our taxpayers and changing their value as compared to everybody else, I think that's the comment that Elizabeth was making. All right.
There's been no motion or second.
Right.
Oh, I move that we accept the assessor's valuation.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the clerk call the roll?
Kurt,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Bob.
Okay, yes.
And that assessment stands.
Well, and it's, I think that every 3 years is, because if we went 3 years without having a Board of Equalization to listen to people, we'd be here for 6 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the other part of that is there's such a big area that we're involved with. It doesn't, I don't think unless we're willing to pay significantly more to the assessors that, I don't think you could possibly assess the whole borough in 1 year or reassess it.
There's a little bit over 40,000 parcels. And to prove to everyone that everybody is being looked at the same, we'd have to do them all at the same time.
All right, the next parcel we're going to consider is 345.
345 Valkyrie.
What happened to 285? They aren't here, did they accept?
We move that closer to you, thank you. They withdrew.
The Jensens did?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Doug, you are up.
Okay, so,
And I'm going to remind you, one,
Yes.
speak into the mic so we can hear it, and then two, the criteria that we're considering, and the burden of proof is on you to demonstrate that
okay, I'm
the
not sure I
assessment
read
fails.
this,
Okay.
but seeing this, I will tell you I'll be very short,
Okay.
quick, and if I get off track, let me know. So 103 Valkyrie Street, so we're back out on Valkyrie Street again, and lot 12A, block 095. And so I'm here because, and if you have that piece of paper that I submitted on Friday, I made an error in there in case you got a copy of it and you read it. I said a 33% increase. I don't know where I was doing my math, but actually it's a 65% increase. So anyway, the assessment on my lot was 40,000 and it went up to 66,200. So that's like about a 65% increase. And what I'm saying is that I just believe that that's a huge increase. I don't think it's proper. And you heard the other people talking about the property out there a little while ago. The lot that we're talking about is as you come up Goffin and you turn onto Valkyrie. It's the first lot there on the left side. And it's an undeveloped lot. There's no structure on it. A little bit of gravel fill in there. Mud, stumps. There's no view of the Narrows or anything like that. It's right next to a three-way intersection, so there's a lot of traffic noise. I've never been asked if I was interested in selling. Nobody's come to me and say, hey, man, this is a cool property, we want to buy it. It's never happened.
So
What I'm saying is I don't believe that you can justify, I'd be curious to know how you justified a 65% increase in my assessment.
So I'm going to go back to the criteria.
Yes.
And so it sounds like you're saying that you feel your assessment is excessive.
Yes.
And in order to demonstrate that, you have to show that the assessment was grossly disproportionate compared to other assessments in your area.
In the area. Okay. I don't have that information with me, so I will stand down, and that's the name of that tune.
Okay. Yeah, Arnie.
From
Stick around for questions.
Yeah.
Stick around for questions.
Mr. Weldy was a part of this area here. He has a lot, 15,000 square foot lot. It had not been reassessed in years, as many of these have. We established a $4.50 per square foot for these lots. This went up quite a bit. I believe your lot could also front on Wrangell Avenue?
No.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
Okay, my error there. Okay. But anyway, then, okay,
Yeah.
I had the wrong lot. But anyway, he was assessed using, and we've had a lot of discussion on that, everybody should have the same square footage. And so we did that here. As I say, he hasn't been reassessed, as many of these have not. We used the same criteria for him as everyone else in that area.
Yeah.
So then everybody's now assessed at $4.50.
All these,
Right.
yes, we used.
And he was not present, or he was not,
No,
okay, now he is.
10%,
So,
no big deal, but 65?
I realize it's a heck of an increase.
Yep.
But,
It's
he was being at roughly 15,000 square foot lot. He was being assessed less than 10,000 square foot lots in that area. And so, unfortunately, he did bear an increase, but he was valued utilizing the same criteria as the neighborhood. He's just bigger.
Do I have this?
Yeah, I certainly. And we still need a motion.
I'll move that we keep the value as recommended by the assessor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We accept the assessor's evaluation of this property, 345. And the clerk call a roll.
Bert?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Not a little more.
Bob?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes. And next up is Stacy and Andy Kiddums, parcel 140.
You all receive a copy of this?
Where is this?
Yes, we
You
did.
did receive
Yes.
a copy of this?
Yep.
Okay, because I had
Someplace.
access if you needed one.
Just
I don't know where I put it.
just a moment.
Hold on.
Excuse me. Outside, please.
Okay. Go ahead, Stacy.
Okay. My husband couldn't be here today because busy life. But we want to appeal our property based on the notion or the reasoning that it's an excessive and unfair, unequal evaluation of our property in comparison to other similar or like properties within the community. And we put together a list for you, which is not necessarily all-inclusive by any means, but it does provide some examples for houses that may be similar in nature. Now, our house, our home, single-family home, just built by my husband and myself as our own general contractors to try and save money for kids. But it is by no means the largest home in the community. It's not the newest home in the community based on this list, not the largest home, not the newest home, not the most expensive finishings within the home. It does not have, there are no additional like mother-in-law apartments or for rent apartments. There are no additional warehouses, greenhouses, storage units, extra 3-car garages on the property. It has a single 1-car garage and a water cistern unit. And so we feel, as you can see, what we are priced for just improvements. This does not include the lot value, because we're okay with where we're at with the lot value, but the structure of our single-family home is excessive and not within the lines of other similar homes within the area. And I know most of you may not be familiar with all of these on the list, but you're probably familiar with a few and have, been in a few. And I know none of you have necessarily been within ours, but like I said, built it ourselves. I'm not saying that, we didn't try our best to make a nice home, but it's not like a post and beam construction or, some of those high-end fancy things.
You guys are on your own sewer system.
We are on our own sewer system, our own water system.
The only utilities you get from us is electric.
Correct. Yeah. This property is located just past 10 Mile out the road, for those of you that know. So that in itself is a deterrent for, if you were to look at, fair market value for what it would reasonably sell for, that and alone would be a deterrent for, putting it on the market, because there are a lot of people who want to live much closer to the community.
Who assessed the value of the house at almost $600,000? I thought we were just doing property values, home values also.
I believe in this case, and correct me, Stacy, if I said this wrong, is they're okay with the property value?
Right.
They're questioning the improvement value.
Yeah, I caught that. That's what I was.
Correct.
That's why I was thinking. I thought this was okay.
Correct.
So,
and I looked at, there was discussion with several of the other properties before ours about how, there's a 3 and 4 year rotation cycle on when the assessor is able to assess properties, because it is, too much to try and assess the whole community in 1 year. But, I did several of these people who are on the list. I did go and look through as many of their files as staff was able to gather me today, because I had my meeting with the assessor today. And so I wasn't able to look at all of them. These numbers were pulled off of the web, just what I could get online. But I did look at quite a few, most of them, and a number of them that, this is their price. They were assessed this year also. If you look at, John Swanson, his had a 2017 assessment number on it. John Leacon, his had a 2017, and both of those properties also are, within the same time frame as being built or having a remodel. There's when the notice that you file when you're going to do a construction. There was one of those in John Swanson's file that he was going to make, $200,000 renovation and improvements to his kitchen and bathroom. But yet his value didn't change on his property. And what's that?
I was thinking about the square footage value on these homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm familiar with a lot of these homes, and I'm familiar with your home because I was walked through it while you guys were still building it.
Yeah, and that was kind of all over the board.
Some of these houses are smaller than yours, or larger than yours.
A lot of them are larger.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact that several of them here are larger than yours, and they're assessed for less.
Yeah, not only larger, but they also have the warehouses, the garage, the apartments, the water, sewer. I mean, they have a lot more going for it, and I mean, I was trying to put a dollar value on, well, is it assessed at the same dollar value per square footage? And it's not necessarily, because there are other unit multiplying factors, which when I met with the assessor, he explained to me, but it seemed like there was a lot of discretion within that alone as far as where he came up with his unit multiplying factor. Because, for instance, this unit multiplying factor, it can be one thing for a finished home and another thing for like an unfinished basement or a garage. You'll have a different unifying unit factor. So I said, okay, well, shouldn't we then maybe be the same as the unit multiplying factor be the same as, for instance, John Weekon, because we have the exact same siding, the exact same windows, the exact same roof, the exact same trim. His was, a recent construction, and then he just did the addition of the garage and the apartment in his. So shouldn't, our base, living unit had the same multiplying factor? And then I think if that were the case, then it would bring us a little bit more into a reasonable realm of where we would be at with, the other homes. I'm not saying that we need to be at the bottom of the list or we need to be off the list. I just want to feel like I'm getting a fair assessment in comparison to other, relative homes.
Arnie, can you walk us through the process you used to develop these values and how it compared to the others there?
Yes. We use a standardized manual developed through research by Marshall and Swift / CoreLogic. It categorizes buildings by low quality, fair, good, average, good, excellent, very good, and excellent. And then so it differentiates by quality of construction. It then differentiates by the square footage and whether it's a one-story house, a two-story house, 1.5, 2.5, that type of thing. And so then we come up with values. And as size increases, the unit value decreases because it's more efficient to build a 2,400 square foot home that's 2 stories than a 1,200 square foot home, 1 story. And so we use basically that criteria. It's a standardized number. If I had half a dozen houses, all at 3,000 square feet, with the very same characteristics, they would all be valued the same, using the same unit number. Then, say 5 years down the road, this one is in disrepair. Then we look at age depreciation, physical condition depreciation, those type of things. If Petersburg were to suffer a great economic decline, like what happened up in Nenana, we applied an economic depreciation to that. And so everybody we use the same scale for everyone. Now, one of the big irregularities is, well, not irregularities, but we do this by an exterior view. And so we make a value judgment. Is this improvement we are looking at average in comparison with the community? Is it of lower quality? Is it of greater quality? And we make a value judgment on it. In the instant case, I valued the house based on a square footage, which was later shown that, no, it wasn't that large. So I reduced it to what I saw in the plans.
To address Stacy's question about the differences in the values for the other properties?
The subjectivity is what I see here, I mean, it depends on, was it a day, was it a rainy day?
I did write down many of the properties that she provided in her list. Yeah. And then I took,
I mean,
many of those are on this list. And then I went through and I took just the living area. to see if I was being equitable by size of just the living area, not, say, the garages or anything, just living area. Okay. And I came out with the square footage of that.
Arnie, do you take into account things like numbers of bathrooms, numbers of bedrooms, whether there's a kitchen or anything like
No,
that?
because it's an exterior view.
Okay.
And that's a big difference. That's a reason, and there's often a big difference between an assessment, which is mass appraisal, and an actual appraisal where they go in the house. I might see a cedar house and say it's of good quality. And you go inside and they're raising chickens in the living room. It's obviously not of good quality. But I don't know that unless something is appealed. Now, oftentimes with new construction, I ask for a current appraisal. Because oftentimes on larger homes, they have to borrow money, and generally lenders will say, we need an appraisal to see if what you are intending to build, if that factors out. As an example, as a sideline, there's a 4,000 square foot home going in, or contemplated in Alaska. One of the appraisers was requested to do an appraisal on that, so that the person could qualify to borrow the money. Because if the numbers aren't there, they're not going to loan on it.
When you did the values, are you looking at the values out the road, at 10 Mile? Talking about the improvements, the same as you do in town?
Yes. If you were to build the Kiddham's house on Nordic Drive, for example, it's 3,824 square feet. I would use the same criteria for the house itself, possibly not the land, because Nordic Drive is different than Falls Creek subdivision, but they would both be valued using the same criteria. Now, there's a difference of opinion often on, well, I think my house is average, and you valued it as good. Or the vice versa. I did have an appeal this year where they said, we think you missed it. Our house is of good quality, and you've got it at average. And so I spent 2 hours with the, yes, sir.
Oh, no, go ahead, finish your story. I was just...
And anyway, I spent a couple hours one evening re-inventorying their house, going through and said, I feel this house is of good quality when I compare it to houses, similar houses. And we redid it, and yeah, it was much higher than the previous assessment.
So it looks like you actually did offer a reduced value, that it came down $62,700?
And actually, after discussion with the Kiddhams today, there's portions of the house that they have advised me are not finished. And we also considered that the lower portion of the house may well be, could be considered as a daylight basement because of the concrete wall construction on a portion of it, versus instead of, say, a two-story house, which our house is, where both stories are at ground level. So, in other words, a slab and a two-story house, which would be different because basements or daylight basements are less square footage than regular all-stick built.
So, given that, although having seen the house, I would question that.
You got to see it from the roadside. It looks like a one-story house, which is what qualifies as a daylight basement, because you don't see the whole downstairs from the roadside.
No, but you do from the water side.
From the water side, you see both stories,
Yeah.
but from the street.
But so based on that, though, have you revised the assessment again?
Yes, based on recalculating the lower level and the percentage of completion, I came to 426.7.
Okay.
That's in the middle.
For the dwelling.
Okay. Did I miss it?
426?
7.
7.
And, yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to add that, we did have that discussion about, there's still some items that are not finished on the house, and that it is technically a daylight basement. That's the way the plans were drawn up, and that there was the wrong square footage. So we did come down to that number. Although, even though that number is heading in the right direction, it still is not equitable for these other houses that are on this list. And so I was trying to find out, well, what is the differentiating factor? And it comes down to that discretionary multiplying unit that you have. And so that's why when I looked through the files, I identified, okay, what house is within the same 2-3 years of construction, has the same siding, has the same windows, has the same roof, has the same trim, basically everything that the assessor can see from the outside of the house, all things similar, and that would have been the Wecon's house. And so that then, in using that methodology, you should use the same multiplying factor when you multiply out the square footage for those areas, for the living areas, because all else is the same. So if you don't, then it's not equitable. And then I think if that were to be the case, then it would bring the assessment to, because they have a multiplying factor of 64.63, so that would bring the assessment to $383,074. To me, that is a number that is much more comfortable. Then I think we fit a little bit more within the parameters of I've been in most of these houses, not all of them, but I'm familiar with all of them. And I think that, that's probably a little bit more digestible as far as where I think we should fall on the spectrum.
What's that number again, Stacy?
$383,074.
When you do comparisons, don't you do a comparison in the neighborhood? Or do you do comparisons from all over town?
Excuse me?
When you do comparisons, recent sales, do you do them in the neighborhood or do you do them from all over town?
Well, in a small community like this, you have to do them all over.
Okay, thank you.
If an appraiser were to come out and render, he would use comparable houses throughout the area and then make adjustments upon it. The most current sale where I know the sales amount was, is it Winthrow's house? It's up next to Reamer's. Mm-hmm. Okay. That house is it's well over 4,000 square feet. You're all familiar with it. It sold at $637. Now, if we were to take the land away from that, the current land, that would put the value of the house at $452,000.
Mm-hmm. That house also has over 2,000.
Mm-hmm. And now we have a smaller house, newer, not remodeled, that I'm suggesting is at $426,600. I don't see the inequitability.
How many square feet is Jay Lister's house? Because they were built about the same time as Stacy's was.
That's a good point, because in the files, a lot of these files did not have complete information.
Lister's house is 1814.
1814
and
yours,
that doesn't even show the upstairs. That's just the downstairs.
His unit value, just considering, is $138.54.
Because it just rested, Jay, the reason
I would say that if you're going to look at that, you should look at the file, because that file only lists the downstairs, and that house has 2 stories. And there's a lot of things that are not, that's what I say, it's not, there's missing stuff from some of these files, and I don't know where things went missing, or not, but it's hard, it's not consistent in that you have the same stuff. And so that's why I'm trying to compare apples to apples and find the common denominator. Yeah, to find the common denominator.
Provide all of that information. For example, you say you've had the property appraised, but you don't provide the appraisal.
Exactly, but if you're the assessor, you're measuring the parameter, and you can look up and see that there's a second floor because there's windows up there. And I mean, if it's a 2-story home or a 1-story home. That's a 2-story home, but in the file, it only lists 1 story. So there's, not all of the files share all of the information. And if I was to go back to the Winters house, yes, there's over 4,000 square feet of living space that's finished. There's also over 2,000 square feet of storage basement space. There's a 3-car garage. It's a double lot. I mean, it's got heated driveway to melt the snow. I mean, there's a lot of differences within.
This is why I wanted to compare Jay Lister's house and Jesse West's house, because those two are out in the neighborhood. I mean, they're all within a slingshot throw, from their house. And Jesse's was valued at $487. How big is his square footage? Because I know it's a pretty big size. Jesse West's house. What's the square footage on Jesse West's house?
Is that the one that's out the road?
Yeah, the one that was just recently constructed.
Okay, that's 4338.
Okay. And then Jay's was, now, you say it's improperly measured, Stacy, because it only shows one story?
To me, when I looked at that file, I didn't see the second story. I only saw the first story.
So do you have any inkling on how many square feet his house is?
I've never been inside that house, so I cannot say.
Okay.
But I would say, it's probably comparable to ours, but I can't tell you. I've never been inside the house. But I know that it was built within a recent time frame of our house being built. I know they have, garages and sheds and outbuildings that we don't have. But
when I was comparing those two houses in particular is because they both have their own water systems and their own sewer systems.
Well, Jesse West, in addition to his 4,338 square foot of finished living space, he also has a 667.5 square foot finished apartment, mother-in-law apartment, over his, what was it, a 4 or 6-car garage that is finished. So, I mean, it's huge post and beam construction. It's like another level.
So you said some of the house isn't finished. Can you estimate a square footage that is not
of our house
in your house?
It's bits and pieces of the house. It's like, we don't have a shower door in the master bathroom yet because, some things, like I said, we tried to build it ourselves as much as possible so that we could save and stretch and, as much as we could. And so we don't have that finished yet. We don't have tile work done in kitchen still. I'm still missing transom windows above all of the bedroom doors.
But
we don't have
space that isn't finished as opposed to...
We're living in it, even though, we don't shower in our bathroom. We go to the kids' bathroom, but we're still living in the house since we moved in. We don't have, yes, we have a back deck, but we don't have stairs going down. So there's like bits and pieces that, are just still not checked off. So he came up with, based on, because we discussed this too, and he said, okay, based on that, when we were at the 426,600 number, he was factoring in a 6% reduction based on those unfinished items. To me, I'm thinking, okay, that 6% reduction should though be factored in maybe after you use the same unit rate that like recons have, because all else is similar. So give us.
I look at your number that you've offered, the 383.74. And the 426,700 that Arnie quoted, you're within $43,600, 43,626 of one another. So is there a way we can get closer?
Can you get closer right now?
I just want to feel like I'm treated the same as the other people. And I see, when I look at this list, and I've been in most of these houses, so I know, what houses have the fancy post and beam construction, and what houses have, a little bit more economics going on. I'm not going to, all of these houses I think are nice houses, but there are some things that differentiate them. And all of these houses that are on this list, you also have to keep in mind, included in these numbers, are there apartments? Are there warehouses? Are there 3-4 garages? Which we don't have any of those things. And we are a single-family home. We don't have 2 kitchens. We don't, And so when I came up with the unit, what I thought was the unit, because that's the only way I could see is if you have that form of measurement, which is important, and that form of measurement that seemed to make things equitable was that unit cost that he then multiplied against the square footage. And that unit cost for the upstairs square footage that would have made it more equitable would have been do us with the same unit cost that you did, the houses that are similar to ours, like the Weekons, as far as finishes go.
Have comments or suggestions from the board?
I'm waiting on Arnie here.
Something that I also wrote down the West New House. And right now, and I would say, in my opinion, they were built about the same time. I picked them up the same time. The West House is bigger, but as it comes out, the value per square foot is $13 more than the Kiddams house. If I were to take all the files that I pulled from the Kiddams provided list, of course, this is not scientific because there's some of their mere average quality, but I took all their unit values and added them together and just divided by the number. As I say, it's not totally scientific. Then a unit value applied to those is $119.30. For the Kiddams, it's $111.56. Now, as I say, this is not scientific because you have houses that are from brand new to houses that are approaching 40 years old. And granted, some of them have been updated, remodeled, but you still, in a lot of cases, remodeled. You're reducing their age. Yeah, they're kind of newer, but still there's a part of them that is old, if that makes sense.
So when you're looking at value and you're talking about things like waterfront and view, is that applied to the building value or to the land value only?
Just the building.
No,
just the land.
Just the land.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
If you have access to the water line or a commanding view, does that affect your land value or is it also applied to the building value?
Just the land.
They have applied, now out where the Kiddams live, we did nothing with view.
Okay.
It was based on the sales, what we could find out. There it was kind of valued because it was Falls Creek subdivision was created by the state and it was by bid, so you knew exactly what the lots went for.
And the reason I'm asking that question is I don't know if all of these properties are waterfront properties, and I was...
No, okay, so all of these numbers I figured are not on any of their lands. Okay. We just put it based on the structures that are on the property.
That's why I was asking, did those values
and
apply to the
from my interpretation is that, that's tied more to the land, not the structure.
That's why I was asking how Arnie considered it.
And when he says, okay, well, Jesse West's house is, only so much more than ours. Well, Jesse's got a 4-car garage, heated garage, and he's got an apartment, and he's got, I don't know if any of you guys have been in there, but it's huge. His posts and beams in his house are as wide as this table. I mean, it's like...
I'm not talking about the garage. I'm just talking about the living area.
The living area. I'm talking about... Yeah.
And so,
but his house should be more because it has that garage. I mean, this number includes his garage. This number includes his garage.
If I understand this, it's done by square footage on the exterior, correct?
Exterior.
Not all. No.
We measure the exterior and determine.
So would the footprint.
If we're lucky enough to get a set of the plans and they built it per the plans, then you have the most accurate. Mm-hmm. That's not always the case. Just because you file a set of building plans does not mean that you're going to build it that way. We do find that.
So a smaller house with a shop that was the same square footage as a larger house would be valued at the same? Is that what you're saying?
The house, we're talking about detail. Yes, the house is for 1,500 square feet. This house over here is 2,500 square feet. This house would have a higher unit value to construct. It might be 80, well, for an example.
This is where the discussion applies.
Take a two-story house that is what should we pick? 1,600 square feet. And we'll take one that's just T111. 1,600 square feet, 9857 for the unit value times the local multiplier. Now, how much, you want to add 1,000 square feet to that, go to 2,600? That value drops to $89.56 a foot.
But that's not the question that I'm asking. I'm just trying to understand if you have the same amount of square footage developed, but it's in different configurations, like I have a shop and a house,
right,
but she has a larger house that's the same square footage as my shop and my house. Are those valued the same?
No, the garages are a far less value.
Okay, that's all I was trying to get at.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I was just trying to understand.
A garage is a less value. A basement is a less value. It's your primary living area is what it's kind of based on. And so, going back to that, I still could not see an equitable comparison when I looked at this list. And so that's why I was trying to find, okay, well, what is the form of measurement that is equitable? And that's why, I can kind of see he's going back to the unit value that he then applies to the cost per square footage. But that unit value, in my discussing with him and looking at the files, appears to be very discretionary as far as what number is chosen as the unit value. And I was asking him about that, and he says, well, it's the quality of construction is how I determine the unit value. Because you have your high-end homes and your low-end homes. And so that's why I said, well, then let's choose a home that has the same quality construction. And that unit value should be the same unit value that we then apply to our square footage,
Given that the same assessor valued both places.
Because
I may see the quality differently than someone else.
And when I say that unit value,
I'm of the opinion that Kiddham's house is of good quality. 5 others could go out there and say, there's nothing special on it. It's an average house. We would have a difference of a couple hundred thousand in value. It's a judgment. And
So this is just an assessment. Have you had the home appraised?
well, so I go back, and I don't want to, just, it's a petri dish is why I go back to that house, because I'm trying to build the, I could jump back and forth through all the houses, but I went back to that house specifically because of, the similarities in the types of construction and the age of construction, and it was also assessed this year as well. So it should be on, it was one property I could find that there was a lot of similarities. It's going to have its differences as far as square footage and as far as garages and as far as apartments, but it had a lot of other things that were very similar as far as time that it was built, year that it's assessed, quality of the materials involved in the construction. Those were the things that I thought, okay, well then this should have the same type of unit multiplying factor.
So I'm going back to the information that was given to you. And one of the points is for a complete presentation of an appeal, all information requested should be produced, whether it is requested by this petition, by the assessor, or by the board. One of the questions is, did you have an appraisal? You answer yes. How much is the property insured for? You don't state a value, and you don't state a value for the appraisal. So it's great that you're getting these comparables, but you're not giving, giving the information that was requested for a complete appeal.
Can I speak?
Yes.
It's because it's a non-disclosure state, as he explained several times, that we're not required to give you that information. So that is, you can ask for it in addition to, but it should not weigh into factor in resolving this. This is based on equitable, and that's what I'm basing my appeal on, is that this is not equitable.
But that's one
based on that. It's one of the things that's on the form.
It's one method of establishing the value and the equitability of the valuation.
It's one that can be used as, but again, it's a non-disclosure state per the state of Alaska law. And so I want to be treated the same as everybody else. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm not asking for like some grand discount deal. I just want to feel like I'm treated the same, given the comps.
I got to go back, Arnie. we have, well, I've listened to apples, oranges, bananas, and peaches here. I want to make sure that we're still on the same playing field. Stacy's talking about a bunch of the interior. We don't do it on the interior. We do, when you value it, all those places that are on this list, we value them what the exterior was. We valued them on the primary residence alone that we have here. We valued it based on the quality, your estimated quality looking from the outside. Is there something I'm missing where we didn't?
No, that's basically it. We take the size, when it was built, an opinion of its quality of construction, and we come up with a value. Now, I think a current appraisal, we always accept current appraisal. And we don't use them to say I valued a place at 500 and the appraisal shows me 800. I don't immediately say, oh my God, I missed 300,000, you're getting your appraisal. No. But I want an appraisal demonstrates a more depth in analysis than mass appraisal, which is what we do. And several appeals out here, the people I have said, you just purchased your home, do you have a copy of appraisal that will support what your opinion of value is? And I've had no problems with them saying, sure.
If I may.
And they give me that information. No, you don't have to disclose it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, isn't also one of the things the state's looking for is as close to 100% of value as possible? And doesn't an appraisal get you closer to that? I'm just asking Arnie that question, I guess, in general. But
the state asks for 100% of market value. What's better to indicate that than an in-depth analysis through an appraisal where they take several comparables and consider everything? We don't do that as mass assessors or mass appraisers. A municipality could not afford the expense of doing that.
Right.
Thank you.
You got to follow up.
Kurt,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you told me recently, I heard you recently say that if you went out there, or two assessors could go out there, and one could say that it was just an average home, and there could be a couple $100,000 differences in appraisal. How certain are you of your assessment of a good quality versus, say, an average? Or because I think this is her argument, is that she feels as though it's probably you might have overestimated the quality of your house compared to what some of these other people's houses, are used with the same outside materials. So, I mean, I'm just wondering how you came to that position to say that you thought that
my opinion, it was good quality,
right,
and I valued it based on that, and I would stand on that.
That's why you're.
Am I infallible? No.
Yeah.
That's why an appraisal is always, and a recent appraisal is always more valuable than anything else, because that totally takes my opinion out of the thing. They're saying, we say this is a value, and it's based on these 5 comparables. Now, to prove everybody in Petersburg is equitably, there's over 4,000, let's say there's 2,000 homes here. To prove that it's totally, we would have to do every house at the same time.
Okay, Bob, did you have a question?
I'm going back to the criteria.
Sure.
And the issue here that Stacy has is that she believes that it should be valued less than what it is. I don't see, from listening to Arnie and what he's presented to us, he went through a process, the same process he used for any other, he compared those to the other values. I can't find fault with this process. So where I'm at is unless part of the board, would disagree, what else can we look at? Or what else should we do?
Stacy and then Kurt.
Okay, I think that, Kurt was kind of hitting on what I was trying to communicate with you, and this will also explain part of when I say the unit multiplying factor, that is where there's a lot of discretion involved, and that is what I feel should be the part that is equitable, and then you measure square feet off of that, and you measure all your other things off of that. Well, he put ours in a category that was a superior category, and so he gave us a higher multiplying factor than he gave most of these other houses on this list. I don't feel like we are necessarily any higher or any greater than quite a few of these houses on this list. And that's why, I kept going back to John Weekon. He has the same, built within the same time frame, assessed within the same time frame, same siding, same windows, same roof, same trim, same everything you can assess from the outside, same quality of construction. And so based on that, you would derive that you would select the same multiplying unit and then take that number when you calculate out your cost per square footage and come up with your assessment value. So that's where I was getting at, is that it wasn't equal because he did not give us the same unit multiplying factor that he gave other houses that I feel were of very similar quality construction and time frame.
What is the multiplying factor for John Weekon's place, let's just say?
It's 64.63.
Dollars per square foot?
No, it's not $1 per square foot. I don't know what that number stands for, but that's the number in his book.
Per foot.
It's
I
not.
thought he mentioned something about $111 per square foot or something, and $113 a square foot. Am I missing something?
No. What I said was that the value that I reworked comes out at a unit value of $111.56.
No, that's not per square foot.
That's per square foot.
Oh, that's per square foot, okay.
That's per square foot.
Okay. And
Now, if I were to take roughly 16 or 17 properties that I listed here, and of course, as I said earlier on, this is not scientific, and just took all their square footages, added them together, and divided by the total number, I would come up with $119.
have you done that with these numbers?
Yeah.
Well, you did this with these numbers, with the Weekon numbers and all that?
No.
I took a majority of those. Now, there was a couple that I didn't think, one of the comparables that was provided was Rocky Point Lodge. Well, it's not the same. The 800 square foot apartment in, I don't know who owns it. It's on the Falls. If you turn like you were going to take the road at Falls Creek before you cross the bridge and drive back, an 800 foot roughly apartment in that great big red warehouse. I don't feel that's comparable. It's not residential. Yeah, it's an 800 square foot apartment. But anyway, just adding them together, or if I take, as I said, the West House, it's bigger, it's valued at more per square foot. It's the way it works out. It comes down to a matter of opinion on quality.
I think that's what we're expressing right now.
And I think the quality is the same, both good quality. They are above average when you look at the homes in Petersburg. And there's certainly other ones in that category. Now, that I don't look at every good quality house myself, the value judgment is made by another assessor, doesn't mean that somebody's getting preferential treatment.
So do you have an additional point to add?
Well, I just want to say, okay, so he wants to compare us to Jesse West's house. I don't think that's an equitable comparison. It was built within the same time frame, but the materials used in the construction are completely different. And he wants to say that, okay, the cost per square footage, and okay, he says it's relatively...
He said, she said, let's address what yours is.
Well, I don't remember. I didn't write down the cost that he said, but as I'm, just offhand, he's saying that it was slightly more. It wasn't substantially more, but it was slightly more. But then I'm trying to, do the math here, and the math just isn't making sense. Because when I look at what the entire improvements to Jesse's property were made for, and which includes 4,338 square feet of finished living space, 667 square feet of a finished apartment, 4-car heated 900 square foot garage. I mean, he's saying that Jesse was, on here, Jesse's got a valuation of $487,700. So his is, I'm sorry, he's got twice the house we have. That just doesn't make sense that he should only be, that should only be 60,000 more than our house. I mean, that's
All
just,
in the same building?
and it's got two kitchens. It's got, I mean, it's got double everything that we have. So, I mean, I get that, the larger the house you goes, maybe the unit valuation goes down, but, there's 2 whole living units there. We got a single car garage. There's 4-car garage there. There's, it's like, it's not, it's the materials going into the construction are enormously different. I don't think that's the one you should go back to when you look for the similarity comparison when you're trying to find the unit cost per square foot.
So I have a process question, and that is, if we disagree with the value, do we just remand it back to the assessor, or do we have to come up with a value now? And I don't know the answer to that, is why I'm asking that.
We have to determine a value.
We have to determine a value today.
And,
You can put a value
okay.
there.
And I was looking through the list here, and obviously, I'm not going to find a house that's exactly the same square footage. But again, I'm looking just at the living area. Okay? Here's Paulson's house, which was provided on that list, 3,267 square feet. $138.40 a foot. Here's one, Matheson's house, 3848 square feet, $118.20 a foot. Here's one, 3,122 feet, Manisha's house, $137.56 a square foot. The Chittum's house comes out at $111.56 a square foot. They've got more house than Manish, but they're $26 less per square foot. The Reed's house is 1,000 feet smaller, $131.75 a foot. And what I'm doing is I'm taking houses that I'm trying to get comparable size, and I'm taking the same quality of construction that were valued as good quality homes.
If he's doing that, then there's something that's getting left out. Because, like I said, we don't have apartments, we don't have warehouses, we don't have even a 2-car garage, we don't have a greenhouse, we don't have sunrooms, which a lot of these homes have, 2 or 3 of each of those things. So he's talking about cost per square footage of the living area. I get the living area, but, then where's everything else? Because those numbers are not, of all of their warehouses are not, they're factored into this final number also. And so it's not adding up to me, the way that he's explained it to you when he says the cost per square footage.
What point of clarification here, Cindy,
Yes.
going down the avenue that you were going down? And what you guys suggested, that we have to come up with a determination and a number? Can I just throw this out there? Arnie's and stop me if I'm going down the wrong road. But Arnie said that he reduced the appraisal from $426,700. Stacy thinks he should be at $383,000. We're $43,000 off.
Right.
Would you guys agree to just split that difference? Say $21,150 down from what Arnie has, so just barely over $400,000 and just barely over $400,000 on.
I think there needs to be like it needs to, the whole point to me in the process is that it's equal. And it's not equal. And so that's why all I'm asking is to be equal, which would be use the same unit value that you then assess to the square footage for the things, which then would bring us into that number that I would feel then, okay, then we're more equal. Because again, if you just split the difference, then, I mean, it's still putting us above where I think we need to be, because, you know, like I said, you go back to the list and you look at the other comp houses and they're, you know.
But it doesn't matter whether it's a mother-in-law apartment or what have you, it's still going to cost the same amount to build.
No, that's the different thing. That's what he was trying to explain also, is that the larger the home goes, the less expensive it gets to...
I've built 5 homes, okay? I'm not arguing that. What I am arguing is that whether it's a mother-in-law apartment, if we're comparing apples and apples, we're looking at it from the same square footage.
Yeah, what I was...
And that's what I heard Arnie say, is we were comparing apples, your apples with their apples, square footage, and coming up with a cost.
But I'm saying you need to be, when you try and come up with a cost, you try and look at the comps. And I'm saying you need to look at the comps that have similar construction materials built within the similar time frame, and, you know, try and get as many like items. So you are trying to compare more apples to apples than apples and, you know, a couple oranges or, you know, whatever's in the mix. And I'm not saying that all these are perfect ones. That's why, you know, I kept going back to a few of these where they are more similar. I mean, I think, yeah, Rick Weekon, his house is bigger than our house. It's got garages. It's got mother-in-law apartments. It's not accounting for those. I'm saying just give us the same unit value that you're then going to put towards the square footage.
So therefore, you say your place isn't comparable to any of those others. It's different.
No, I'm not saying that, but because I didn't write down the unit value on all of the places because I just got my meeting today with him and staff didn't have time to pull all the files. And then, like I said, not all the files had all of the information in it. Some files were really missing information, but the unit values were, you know, kind of all over the place. And I would like to be more in the mix of what similar construction materials and similar time frames, you know, used, and then you put that towards the square footage. As was explained to me in meeting with him, the method works, how he does his job. He didn't say, okay, well, I just do $117 per square footage living space. That's not how he explained it to me, how he comes up with his methodology. That's just how he's explaining it to you guys. To me, it was like, okay, I come up with a cost per unit, and it can be a different cost per unit based on, you know, how much of it's garage, how much of it's basement, how much of it is, you know, the finished living area. And then I take that and I multiply it by the square footage of each of those areas. So that's the method that I understood that he used. And based on, you know, I'm fine with that if you at least give me the comp unit, you know, whichever house is a comp that is a similar one, you know, in building materials used, use that same comp on me.
But I don't know that it will be a one-for-one comparison, but what were you going to say, Arnie?
And, you know, the most valuable thing here is the current appraisal. It has the comps. We keep talking about comps. That appraisal contains the comps. That is the most accurate at this point in time.
It doesn't,
we
because...
can argue the semantics, the age, the condition, all that stuff forever. But that is the most accurate.
Well,
and that's why we accept them when people appeal. Because that is the most accurate, in-depth analysis, and they have chosen the comps.
Well, no, and I'm...
One more comment, and then I'm going to ask us to draw a conclusion.
Okay, and I'm going to say that's not even accurate, too, because in a comp, when you get an assessment done for, you know, bank loan purposes or insurance purposes, they can only use houses that have sold on the market within the last 3 years. So we know that not a lot of houses in certain, you know, areas turn over that fast, so there's not a lot of comps on the market. So most of these houses on this list would not be able to use, the assessor wouldn't be able to use. I think it's a stretch to try and find any of you who have sold or bought a house anytime new knows it's hard to find a comp that is considered a good comp because they're restricted by it having to be a sale within the last 3 years. And so that's why it's not necessarily reflective of what else is going on in the community.
No, but I do take into account that Arnie works with the local real estate agents to help establish values of properties in conjunction with other information. So there is that. I'm going to ask the board if there is any consensus about the argument that the assessment or the valuation of this property is excessive, unequal, or improper.
I think he made a fair offer, $426,700.
Is that a motion, or is that
I'll
just?
move that.
I'd second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the assessor's revised evaluation of $426,700. Is that correct?
Yes.
Will the clerk call a roll?
Kurt,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes. All right.
I love your tenacity, though.
Yes.
I mean, I'm with you 100%, but
I think-
I'm looking at building a house here.
Yeah,
Putting a
no,
level-
I need a motion to adjourn.
No.
For the
We still have
record,
the Hendersons.
Oh, what they still
That's
here?
right, we got to do that.
Darn.
for the record, I think that it would be good for the Board of Equalization to sit down maybe prior to an equalization meeting with the assessor and get his understanding that he gives the property owners on how he evaluates property. Because he gave me, this is how I do it in the meeting. And then he came here and he gave you a cost per square footage, which is a completely different method of using it. And so I think that, you know, if you understood where he comes up with these unit cost values, it would help broaden your understanding of that. Because I had a learning experience, you know, when I went in there, because I was just going to go in and say, okay, he uses this dollar per square footage for how I was trying to find some rhyme or reason for the comps. And found out that, no, he uses another method, which was not the method that he presented to you guys today, but I think that it would be a good educational, because then it would save some time here, you know, as I'm trying to explain it to you. And I think, you know, I think it would be good to have that.
I'm actually
For the
encouraged to think
future.
that I could build my house for $111 a square foot, because I'm going to build it myself. So I'm really encouraged with that number. Thanks, Arnie. You know, and you too. Appreciate that. So,
Thank you.
are they back on?
We have the Hendersons, but I have a question. Is there tea back there? And if so, can somebody get some and put blood sugar in it? My blood sugar is diving.
There's
And we need
oranges and
we need to finish her. I can't get home tonight. I mean, I really need to go on.
grapes are oranges would be good too for her.
Yeah.
Oh, how about oranges?
Anything, I just am really feeling almost headachy.
Yeah.
Nobody had been appraised recently, but they all gave us an insurance.
I bet you, I'll guarantee you right now that.
Did you need a break, man?
Everybody,
They'll be right back.
are
5 minutes.
They're not on KFSK. They are streaming live on our website, though.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Keep that in mind.
I'm done.
thank you so much.
No problem, she's getting your tea.
I was to the point where I thought, I'm not
You're passing out, so we can't have that.
Does anybody else?
No, go for
No,
it.
I'm good.
Go
I've
for
had
it.
my 3 already today.
Food all day, done.
Yeah, no.
No.
I had a banana for lunch.
You can't do
Speaking of
that.
that, thank you. Speaking of that, you just, what did I do? Oh,
There you go.
Sorry, guys, I should have brought you some too.
No, well,
No.
I brought a banana, but I didn't think we'd go this long, and then I had a cough drop trying to carry myself through. It wasn't really enough.
He's not getting on the phone, correct?
No, he's not. He sent them a message that they all have, that they
okay,
can
so we
read.
just got to, okay, so as soon as Nancy
Do I need
gets
to
in here.
read that into the record?
Yeah, we may as well, when Nancy comes back.
I don't know if I see the message.
This is going to be over in 3
Right,
minutes.
put it in everybody's desk.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, it was just Leo says that it should be
Yeah.
less, so,
An hour ago?
I'm sorry.
That's not what it says. He's got
Well, no, it's Leo's text.
information.
It's off of Leo's text.
Hey, based on that,
Well,
Cindy, how
where'd it
much?
go? Put them all down.
Right here.
Thank you.
Just get that red and let's get it on there.
Oh,
So we
maybe
can
I
just
did.
do the,
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll wait until Nancy comes back.
Because I'm going to make a motion that we just accept Arnie's and go forward.
Thought you all deserved a view for as long as you did.
Hey,
Get us out of the dungeon here.
hey.
Should have done that earlier.
Should have. Didn't even think about it.
I know.
Oh, thank you so much, Lexi. You want to be a junior Board of Appeal member?
Here, you can take
Thank
this.
you so much.
Take this back and just scribble your own name on it. Take my spot.
Civics in action. Doesn't this make you want to buy a property?
Mine went down, and I want to complain about that.
Please do.
Some people did. Yeah, well, yeah.
People
My
complain, oh,
wife
well,
didn't,
yeah,
though.
you're
She
trying to
goes,
sell.
she goes, don't say anything, and I went,
Get him to have a pretty nice house.
Nothing. We're waiting.
No. Worth a hell of a lot more.
Ah, thank you, thank you.
Oh, he's not calling in. That was why you got that message thing that I put in front of you. I gave everybody one, and they have been lost somehow.
He sent this to Leo?
no, it's through Leo's.
See, he was texting Leo, and so Leo sent that
Oh, yeah.
and printed it. Okay.
So he's going to accept our appraisal?
No.
Our assessment?
All right.
No.
We are
It's just-
back in session. Let me read the message from Randy Henderson. He said he has 50 feet of frontage on Nordic, 80 feet of frontage on Wrangell Avenue, all of which have been assessed at the Nordic rate. The front door opens to Baltic, and $94,000 would be a reasonable valuation. Okay.
Was the what evaluation?
He's saying 94,000 is what he thinks would be a reasonable valuation.
For his house?
And he's actually not saying which parcel he's referring to.
The
The one that faces Baltic is lot 19.
Yeah,
the front
big
door
one. And,
of that house has always been, where's the map, where's the picture? I'll show you.
Which one of the appeals, Arnie? 235 or what?
let's see, the one that faces on Baltic is
That's the side door of the
234.
garage. The front door is off this porch on Nordic.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the address, isn't it a Nordic Street
Yes, it is,
address?
it is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question.
But it's always, it was like that at Elkins. And back in that day, you not only went in the back door, you took your shoes off.
Okay.
The only person that could come in the front door at our house was Daddy.
So which parcel are we considering first, 234 or 235? I think that's the one you're discussing, is it
No, it
not?
was 234 they were discussing.
Okay, let's go back to that. So you gave a new proposed valuation of 130,000 for the land
Yes.
and 132,600 for the building. They were not
The
contested.
building wasn't contested, so it was just the land.
So the total-
And that was based on a correction of the square footage of the lot.
Okay, so the new proposed total assessed value is $262,600.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept Arnie's.
And if I might just say one word before, again, this is not science, but we like to look at current events. 2 or 3 houses down towards town from this property is a house for sale. If you subtract the land value, and it's the same land value as this, falls into that bracket. If you subtract the house assessment from the asking price, this is where we are.
So this is towards
It's within a
town?
couple $1,000s of what we determined these lots were.
Oh, okay. The A
This has
front
a
towards town.
very recent comparable.
Well, it hasn't sold yet, but I'm saying it's not exact science, but it's an indicator that we're pretty well into the ballpark.
Well, this is a couple $100 less than it's
If
got
we
it
can-
insured for, too. So I'll second your motion.
Okay, and just so that folks don't feel like we rushed through this, I'm looking at the information presented and the criteria, and I don't think that it meets the criteria of showing that an improper or inappropriate methodology was used. And if what we have to go on is what's presented in this paper, it doesn't really demonstrate that the valuation should be changed, in my opinion.
I would agree with you, Cindy.
All right, will the clerk call the roll on the motion to accept the revised value of $262,600?
And this is on just property 234.
That's correct.
Kurt?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And that valuation is upheld. Now on parcel 235. And what is being contested here? So you are recommending no change in the valuation?
I am.
And let's see, what is he asking for?
Is this for the mother-in-law?
I believe this is another $94,000. It's on the back of one of your sheets. It's a letter that he had written with his formula.
Yeah,
let's see.
this one, he thought it should be 93,000.
Okay.
And you had it valued at 130 like the other one.
Okay. And he's, okay, so this is the one, he's using the frontage on the various streets as the methodology of changing his valuation, correct?
Right. And as I said early on, everybody was valued on a criteria, it wasn't on front footage.
So he's arguing it should be on the upper.
This is a lot we just talked about. This is a lot we're talking about.
Okay.
So you're saying everybody in that area starts on the same basis?
They've all been valued using the same criteria, yeah.
Okay.
Square footages vary, but yes, we use the same criteria for all 48 of them.
Okay.
Map is,
I
I'm sorry, but
move
this
we
map is
accept
kind of...
Ernie's assessment.
What were you going to say?
Did you have a question, Kurt?
I'll second that, just so we can have the sake of conversation.
Sure.
Now. Okay. This map here is kind of confusing here. So, these both, okay, wait a minute. Now, I could have had it turned the wrong way, Baltic. So they both, okay, never mind.
You good now?
I'm good. I had it turned the wrong way.
Is there any
Baltic
more
was Brangle Avenue for me and so forth. I'm going, okay, that doesn't make
discussion
sense.
on the valuation of this parcel?
Lot 18, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hearing no more discussion, will the clerk call the roll? And that's to accept the assessor's valuation of this parcel.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
And that valuation is upheld. And that comes to the end of our list. And so I need one more motion.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is concluded. Thank you.